After the events of the Moro saga, Goku and Vegeta had spent hours trading blows that shook the sky. Every clash of fists produced pressure waves that split clouds apart, and the ground cracked beneath their feet as their bluish auras vibrated with growing intensity.
"Don't hold back, Kakarot! If this is all you've got, then Whis' training was useless!"
Vegeta said as he lunged forward, firing off a burst of energy. "Relax, Vegeta, I'm just warming up." Goku replied with a wide grin as he vanished instantly and reappeared behind him. Vegeta spun quickly and blocked the strike, countering with an upward kick that sent Goku several meters back. However, Goku reacted fast and stopped himself before crashing into the rocks, smiling with excitement when he realized they were getting serious. "I'll admit that surprised me. How about we raise the stakes?" Goku said as he powered up, making the air grow heavier.
"That's exactly what I had in mind!"
After that, both of them unleashed their powers, making the ground around them tremble completely. But just as they were about to charge back into combat, something else happened. A few meters away, the air began to tear open, and a green portal formed in the emptiness, shaped like a spiral of energy. It left Goku and Vegeta confused because they had no idea what could have caused that breach to appear. "Do you think it's an invitation, Vegeta?"
"Don't be an idiot! It could be a trap!"
"Maybe. But if someone can do this, they might be strong, don't you think?"
"Always rushing in without thinking. If you're going, I'm going too. I'm not letting you have all the fun."
They looked at each other, a faint competitive smile crossing their faces, and stepped through the portal at the same time. What they didn't know was that it had all been the work of someone from another world, Armstrong Levy. He was using his powers along with a series of interdimensional devices, all to search for reinforcements for his plan against Invincible. However, this time he had made a mistake, because in his search he ended up opening the portal at an unintended point, the very one that appeared in front of Goku and Vegeta.
No, no, no! That wasn't the right universe!
Armstrong exclaimed as he realized the Saiyans had crossed through the portal, which led them straight into his base. Once they stepped through, the portal closed behind them, leaving them face to face with Armstrong Levy. Goku looked around with curiosity, taking in the screens and circular structures, surprised by everything he was seeing.
"Damn, who are these guys? I can feel an incredible force radiating from them. I can't afford to get careless. I need to get them out of here."
Goku tilted his head slightly toward Armstrong. "Were you the one who opened that portal?"
"Well..."
When Armstrong didn't answer, Vegeta stepped forward hard enough to make the ground tremble.
"Answer carefully! We're not in the mood for games!"
Armstrong felt the pressure immediately. It wasn't like the variants of Mark he had fought before. This was denser, purer. His instincts screamed at him not to provoke them. Armstrong swallowed, but forced a smile as he adjusted one of the devices on his wrist.
"Of course it was me, but it was just a small miscalculation. Nothing more."
Vegeta crossed his arms, his eyes tracking every movement Armstrong made.
"Don't play with us. Tell me right now what you were trying to do."
Armstrong felt cold sweat run down his back. The pressure coming off the two of them wasn't just brute strength, it felt like they could erase his existence at any moment.
"Easy, easy. I'm not your enemy. I'm a scientist, a dimensional traveler. I study alternate realities, heroes, cosmic threats. You two just showed up during my search."
Goku smiled slightly. "Alternate realities? Sounds interesting. So, are you strong?"
"Kakarot, don't be an idiot. This isn't the time."
Armstrong let out a nervous laugh.
"Strong wouldn't be the right word.
I'm more strategic. I gather resources, allies, knowledge. You see, in this world there's something called Invincible, a hero, though his existence is problematic." "Invincible? I like that name. Is he strong?"
"Strong enough to cause havoc.
I'm simply trying to keep the balance."
"Then explain why your pulse spikes when you say his name,"
Vegeta said, noticing how Armstrong looked slightly irritated when that name came up. "Don't you think you're being a little harsh?"
"You're the one being too soft, Kakarot. We don't know him."
While Goku and Vegeta had a small argument, Armstrong decided to act, using his powers to throw a portal at them, sending them out of the base and closing it instantly. Just like that, Goku and Vegeta were transported into the city of Invincible's world, appearing high in the sky. Vegeta was annoyed at being caught off guard, but Angstrom's move made one thing clear. He wasn't strong enough to deal with them directly, so he resorted to that tactic. His attack didn't do anything to us, but it looks like he sent us far away so we wouldn't know his intentions. I honestly thought he was going to attack us, so I let him use his powers. I wanted to see how strong he was. I didn't expect he'd send us here. Either way, we'll have to find him later. Something about this place feels off. You're right. This city looks different. They descended slowly onto the top of one of the buildings, trying to understand where they were. Vegeta crossed his arms, scanned the buildings, vehicles, and the slightly different technology. This definitely isn't the Earth we know. You're right. I don't recognize this architecture. I can't sense the others either. Goku closed his eyes, focusing. And the people's ki here is different. Weaker overall, but there's something else. What do you mean? Among all these people, there are some with higher levels than normal. True. It's nothing special, but it's clear they're the strongest ones here. Down on the streets, nobody seemed to notice anything strange. Cars moved along, a police siren wailed in the distance, and a helicopter cut across the sky. I don't see a way back. We might have to find that guy so we can get home. Yeah, but beyond that, I want to know why he was opening portals. It's obvious what he told us earlier wasn't true. Who knows? But from the way he reacted, I'm sure he didn't expect us to show up. Best thing to do is investigate, but be careful. We don't want to scare him off if we find him. Goku nodded with his usual calm expression. Good idea. Let's do it. They jumped from the rooftop and flew through the city, looking for any clue that could lead them to Angstrom and force answers out of him. While they inspected the area, Angstrom remained at his base, still shaken by what had happened. He knew he had made a serious mistake, and that his plans could fail because of it. Damn it. I didn't plan for this. I have to move fast before those two do something to me. Nothing is going to stop me from completing my revenge against Mark. Once Angstrom decided his next move, he opened more portals around him. From them emerged the evil variants of Invincible he had been recruiting. The ones that stood out most were Mohawk, Sinister Mark, Omni Mark, and the Masked Mark. There's still not enough, so we're going to speed things up with the other variants. Get ready for the attack. Yeah, whatever. I just want to crush everything in my path already. Do what you have to do, just don't make us wait too long. The wait will be worth it. You'll see. After that, Angstrom got to work and went after more of Mark's variants, determined to cause as much damage as possible and finish him off. And even more importantly, to make sure those two strangers didn't ruin his plans. Meanwhile, Goku and Vegeta kept flying through the city, but they hadn't seen anything out of the ordinary, until suddenly they spotted a huge flash on one of the streets. It was Powerplex, someone with technology that let him use kinetic energy to his advantage. He used it to draw Invincible's attention, blaming him for all the deaths caused by his father. His hatred was so intense that he used his own family as bait to make sure the hero showed up. Invincible was fighting him to stop him because he was putting everyone in danger, especially his own family who was nearby. Goku and Vegeta moved closer through the air, watching from as close as they could without being seen. Nobody here understands the danger you are! That's why I'm gonna make you pay for what you did! I know a lot of people suffered because of me, but this won't change anything! Stop! As their fight stayed fairly even, Goku and Vegeta realized Invincible's power level was quite high compared to most others, while Powerplex didn't have particularly high energy because he relied mostly on his kinetic technology, which was his greatest advantage. Do you think we should do something? Maybe, but we don't know the situation, so let's watch a little longer. I hope you're right, Goku said, hesitating slightly as the fight grew more intense. Because Invincible and Powerplex were causing serious damage to a building, right where Powerplex's family was. It didn't take long for Invincible to gain the upper hand. He finally managed to hold Powerplex down and immobilize him, but in a burst of rage, Powerplex decided to unleash a massive kinetic energy charge, even though it could hit his wife and child who were only meters away. It looked like certain death for them, but in that instant Goku teleported, pulling the woman and child out of the building before the blast could reach them. At the same time, Vegeta appeared behind Powerplex and landed a simple strike that knocked him out cold. Powerplex dropped to the ground without even understanding what had hit him. Invincible stood up, breathing hard, shocked by the intervention, because without them, that family would have died. Those powers are useless if you use them with no control, Vegeta said as he looked down at Powerplex's unconscious body. Once the area was safe, Goku landed beside Vegeta and set the woman and child down on the ground. But instead of looking grateful, the woman seemed irritated. She shared the same contempt her husband had for Invincible, though she didn't want to cause a scene. Looks like everything's under control. Thanks for your help. Who are you? I've never seen you before. It's complicated, but my name is Goku, and the one next to me is Vegeta. I'm not trying to judge, but why are you dressed like that? Vegeta asked, looking at Invincible's blue suit. Well, because I'm a hero. Or at least I try to be. The suit protects my identity and lets people know I'm here to help. Goku tilted his head with genuine curiosity. A hero? Like someone who saves people and fights the bad guys? Invincible nodded. Exactly. My hero name is Invincible. That's what most people know me as. Vegeta narrowed his eyes the moment he heard the name. Invincible. Hey, Vegeta, didn't that portal guy mention someone named Invincible? Vegeta crossed his arms. Yeah, he said you were problematic, that he was keeping the balance or something like that. He was obviously lying, but you might be able to give us some answers. Invincible looked at them confused because he didn't understand what they were talking about. Wait, who mentioned my name? What are you talking about? Goku exchanged a glance with Vegeta before answering. Before we got here, we went through a green portal. It took us to a base full of screens and strange tech. There was a guy there. He said he studied alternate realities, and that you were problematic. He didn't give his name, and he didn't seem like the type to tell the truth easily. Invincible's brow furrowed instantly, stunned by that description. Wait, did you say a green portal? Devices on his arms? And a big head? Yeah, exactly. Invincible clenched his fist as he realized who it was, fearing the worst, because that meant Armstrong was still alive. Invincible clenched his fist as he realized who it was, fearing the worst, because that meant Armstrong was still alive. Then it's him again. That guy's been causing problems for a long time. How is he still alive? He looked visibly shaken by the news, which caught Goku and Vegeta's attention. You know him? Too well. But now isn't the time to explain everything. First, I need to get him into custody before he wakes up and puts everyone in danger again. Goku looked at the man on the ground, noticing how out of control he'd been. You're right. He was really unstable. He lost a family member because of my dad. He thinks it was all my fault and his hate pushed him too far. Invincible sighed, then looked back at them seriously. Listen, if that guy brought you here, then this is bigger than it looks. But I can't leave Powerplex lying in the street. Come with me to the Pentagon base. We can talk more calmly there. The Pentagon? It's where the government operates. The people who oversee heroes? The director's name is Cecil. He'll want to meet you, especially if you helped stop this. I don't know if we should get involved with this world's government. Maybe not, but if you want to get home and understand what's happening, you need information, and Cecil has a lot of it. Sounds reasonable, and I want to learn more about being a hero in this world. Invincible hoisted Powerplex's unconscious body over his shoulder. You can fly, right? Obviously. Don't worry about it. Good. Follow me. Invincible rose into the air and flew quickly toward the outskirts of the city. Goku and Vegeta followed without any trouble, drawing the attention of a few civilians who could barely make out three figures in the sky. As they flew, Goku moved alongside Invincible. So, how long have you been a hero? A little over a year. My dad was one too. Well, it's complicated. I'm guessing it has something to do with the fact that the guy you're carrying hates you, right? I guess so, but I'm trying to do the right thing. Protect people even when it doesn't always go well. Goku watched him with a calm smile. That sounds good to me. We fight to protect our world too, just without suits. Invincible glanced at their battle clothes. Yeah, I noticed. You two are different. After flying for a while, they could see a structure in the distance. Apparently normal, sitting in an open area, a discreet building surrounded by military security. Invincible descended at the entrance. Several soldiers instinctively aimed their weapons when they saw Goku and Vegeta, but lowered them slightly once they recognized Invincible. "Invincible, what happened?" "Another incident. It's under control, but I need to see Cecil." The doors opened after a quick scan. The group walked through brightly lit corridors packed with advanced technology, screens showing live feeds from different parts of the world. Goku looked around with fascination. "Wow, this place is impressive." "Looks like they take security seriously here." "We coordinate responses to global threats. Not every hero works alone." As they walked, a voice echoed through the speakers. "Invincible, I see you brought some interesting company." "Yeah, and I think you want to meet them." Goku glanced at Vegeta. "Looks like this Cecil already knows we're here." Vegeta gave a faint smile. "Then he'd better listen carefully, because if that portal guy is planning something, he'll be dealing with us." At that moment, the metal doors slid open with a hydraulic hiss. At the end of the hallway stood a man in a dark suit, with a calculating gaze and a scar cutting across his face, a constant reminder that he lived in a dangerous world. Cecil looked Goku and Vegeta up and down without losing his composure. "Interesting. 2 unidentified individuals capable of flight. But I'll admit, I like it when strangers start out by helping." Goku raised his hand naturally. "Hi, I'm Goku. He's Vegeta. We came from another world. Literally." Vegeta looked annoyed at Goku for blurting that out so casually, since it was reckless. "Don't just say it like that, Kakarot. They'll think we're lunatics." Sorry." Cecil barely looked surprised at the revelation, since he was in some way familiar with things like that. "Another world. Right. That explains why we've never seen you before." Invincible handed Powerplex's unconscious body over to the staff and stepped forward. "Cecil, they helped me. If it weren't for Goku, Powerplex's family would be dead." "I see. Then let's start from the beginning. Who brought you here?" "We were training, and then a green portal appeared. We went through it and ended up in a base full of screens. A guy with devices on his arms said he studied alternate realities." "That's right. We questioned him a bit, but he only fed us lies. When we pressured him, he threw us into this city with another portal." Invincible clenched his fists, remembering the one responsible for all of this. He spoke up to explain who it was. "The person you're describing is Armstrong Levy. I'm sure of it." Goku and Vegeta exchanged a silent look. "What do you know about him?" "He's a dimensional traveler. Because of that, he's seen countless versions of me, and since in many of them I'm a monster, he blames my existence for the destruction of entire worlds. He developed a personal grudge against me." "But we're not from here. Why open a portal to our world?" "Because someone who stockpiles multiversal knowledge eventually looks for new variables, new power. And you two are clearly that." "He didn't seem strong enough to face us directly." "Then he's planning something bigger than we think." Invincible nodded. "He's done it before. He allied himself with the Mauler brothers and their variants to reach his goal." Cecil went quiet for a few seconds, processing what they knew. If Armstrong is recruiting variants again, and now he's also accidentally brought in 2 individuals with energy levels beyond anything we've ever recorded, then this situation is escalating. Goku gave a small smile. "So it wasn't random. He's definitely planning an attack." "Most likely a large-scale attack, just to get revenge and hurt Invincible." "Armstrong won't stop for anything. He'll put entire cities at risk just to satisfy his need for revenge." Cecil looked at both Saiyans with more open interest. "I like that I don't have to explain what a strategic threat looks like." "I used to handle that kind of thing in the past, but that's another story." "We want to get back home, but we're not going to let someone destroy a world while we're looking for the way back." "Good. Since this is complicated, I'll be direct. Goku, Vegeta, I don't know you, but the fact that you stepped in without seeking recognition tells me I can work with you. If Armstrong is preparing a multiversal offensive, we need enough power to stop it. You want to return to your world, I want to stop him before he destroys mine. So I think we can make a deal. I'm asking you to join this operation. Help us stop Armstrong, and I'll make sure you find your way back." Cecil has tech that can track strange energy signatures. If Armstrong opens more portals, we can detect it. It's worth trying.
Sounds like the best option.
And it sounds interesting.
Seeing they were convinced, Invincible extended his hand toward them. I can't promise it'll be easy, but if Angstrom really is gathering variants, I'd like you two on our side. Goku didn't hesitate and shook Invincible's hand, making it clear they were with him.
Of course we'll work with you. We can't just let him get away with it without doing anything.
Same here. If that guy thinks he can manipulate us like pieces on his board, he's wrong.
Good. Since you've agreed, then we do it right. Mark, take him to the others. I want the new Guardians of the Globe to see them with their own eyes, understand what they can do, how they move, how they react, and you two are going to need to see how we operate here.
Invincible nodded, though it clearly weighed on him to expose them so quickly in front of everyone, especially since he wasn't sure how people would react to two unknown flyers showing up out of nowhere. Still, he didn't argue. Understood. Come with me. The Guardians are training somewhere secure. Cecil wants to evaluate everyone and see how you fit in.
Sounds good. I like meeting other heroes. Maybe they're strong too.
Don't start with that. First, let's figure out how this place works. Then we'll see if anyone here is actually worth it.
As they walked through the facility, Invincible guided them down the corridors. The soldiers nearby kept glancing at Goku and Vegeta, because even with their auras restrained, the presence of both Saiyans felt overwhelming, like something this place wasn't used to controlling. Tell me something. Have you ever seen anything like those dimensional portals in your world? Something like that, yeah. For us, it's normal to travel between planets. Between dimensions, not so much. But we've seen weird things. Gods, angels, magic, monsters, and portals too, just not like his. Vegeta glanced to the side, wearing his usual prideful expression.
And where we're from, we don't need that much technology to fight like Angstrom does. We use our ki.
What is ki? Is it energy? Goku nodded, pointing at his chest with his thumb. Exactly. It's energy that all living beings have. When you learn to control it, you can use it to strengthen your body or fire attacks. And if you're good, you can even sense movement flow. Invincible's eyes widened a little at that explanation.
So that's how you found me so quickly in the city. You were searching with that energy.
Exactly. And that's also how we knew you were one of the strongest here. Your energy stands out, even if you can't control it like we can. Invincible felt slightly reassured hearing that he was considered strong, since he trained every day to be a better hero. Can everyone here fly like you? Not everyone can. People have different powers, and it works differently for each person. We even have an alien on the team who can stretch a lot.
Other races here? What a surprise.
Yeah. In your world, no? Actually, yes. Even if we don't look like it, we aren't humans. We're Saiyans. We get stronger by fighting, and we love combat.
Seriously? You look human to me. I wouldn't have known you were another race if you hadn't told me. We were a warrior race that got wiped out. Kakarot and I are among the few left. Our planet was destroyed, our people were erased, and what remained of us scattered.
Invincible looked at him with a strange mix of respect and shock. He hadn't expected their race to have such a tragic fate.
I'm sorry, I didn't know. Don't worry, I'm just telling you what happened. And if we're going to fight in your world, you need to understand we aren't human.
We've been through countless things, but we kept moving forward. We found reasons to fight beyond just getting stronger. Our friends and family. Invincible stayed quiet for a couple of seconds. Hearing their story made him wonder if he should do the same and reveal what he really was, something he still struggled to accept. But since his situation was so similar, maybe they would understand him.
I see. I guess you know what it feels like. I'm not what I seem either. I'm not a normal human.
Goku tilted his head at that, not expecting the confession. Really? Then what are you? Invincible sighed, thinking about everything tied to his race. But with Goku and Vegeta in front of him, he felt he could say it without being judged, especially because of what happened with his father. As Invincible prepared to reveal his true nature, Angstrom already had everything ready for the attack. He began opening several portals in the sky, and from them emerged many variants of Mark, ready to destroy everything in their path. After Goku and Vegeta arrived in the world of Invincible, both were recruited by Cecil to stop Angstrom's threat. However, they had no idea he had already opened several portals in the sky from which the evil variants of Mark emerged. Meanwhile, Invincible kept leading Goku and Vegeta toward the Guardians, deciding to tell them about his true nature as they walked. You see, the truth is, I'm not completely human. I'm half Viltrumite. It's a race that's similar to yours in some ways. They're all strong but extremely aggressive. My father came to this planet as a hero, but in reality, he was a conqueror. His empire wants to take civilizations until they are completely subdued. I was born to be a part of that. That's why I've had to fight between what I'm supposed to be and what I want to be. Vegeta looked him up and down again, but now with a different focus. Not a military evaluation, but the gaze of someone who recognizes a similar shadow. I see. A conquering race. That really sounds a lot like what the Saiyans used to do in the past. So, you're fighting against what people expect from you. That's tough, but it says a lot about your determination. Not everyone chooses to make a difference. Invincible showed some relief after hearing those words, but he still felt guilt over everything that happened with his father. Thanks, but sometimes I feel like even when I do the right thing, people only see my dad when they look at me. Just like Armstrong. He's seen versions of me that destroy worlds, and he hates me because of that. Being judged by some stranger because of alternate versions of you is stupid. You're the only one actually trying to do something about it and deal with what your father did. That Armstrong talks about keeping balance, but he doesn't even realize he's become the real monster. Vegeta said it with a firm tone because he understood exactly what Invincible meant. He himself had carried the weight of his actions after letting his race's principles fuel his pride, slaughtering countless inhabitants of planet Namek without mercy, people he would later help save during his encounter with Moro. On the other hand, Goku nodded at Vegeta's words and gave Invincible a small friendly tap on the shoulder. Don't beat yourself up. At least you're doing something better than the rest of your race. You're being a hero. Invincible stared forward, thinking about what they said. Their words weren't empty comfort. They came from people who had truly been through something like his situation, and that made him feel understood. Thanks. Seriously. Let's put that aside for now. We're going to meet those Guardians so Cecil can do his evaluation. That way we finish this quickly and find the portal guy. Right. We're close. Once they finished walking through the corridors, Invincible led them onto a platform that worked like an elevator, which took them up into a huge training room with reinforced surfaces and cameras in the corners. In the center of the place were the Guardians of the Globe, the heroes who defended Earth from threats. Everyone turned when they saw Invincible had brought two unknown people. Some crossed their arms, wondering what they were doing there. Others simply watched with curiosity, since Goku and Vegeta looked quite unusual. Seeing them all gathered, Invincible raised his hand to get everyone's attention. Good to see you. I'm sure you're wondering who the two people next to me are, so I'll explain it quickly. Cecil asked me to bring them. They're Goku and Vegeta. They helped me during an incident in the city. They come from another world, and they're going to work with us to stop Armstrong, an interdimensional enemy. Everyone was shocked by Invincible's explanation, understanding why Goku and Vegeta looked so different compared to everyone else. But they were also worried when they heard there was an interdimensional enemy. Wait, what do you mean an interdimensional enemy? That's right, he's a guy who can open portals to different worlds, just like how we ended up here. And do we at least know where he is? No, but something tells me he's going to attack at any moment. That's why I brought them here. Now that the situation was clearer, one of the Guardians stepped forward to speak, using a firm tone in front of the others. Fine. If they're going to work with us, we want to know what they can do. That way we're aware of what they're capable of. Goku smiled with excitement at the idea, so he took the chance to stretch a bit. Great! Can't wait to see what kind of powers you guys have! Fine by me, but let's do it quickly. After saying that, Goku and Vegeta exchanged a brief look, and both stepped forward at the same time, instantly taking a fighting stance. The Guardians looked at each other and decided to get ready too, taking positions until they formed a combat formation. Invincible did the same, feeling a little nervous but excited to fight alongside them. Wow, I'm surprised that even though there are more of us, they don't even look nervous. If they're from another world, they must be strong. We can't underestimate them. This will only be a test. No one is to attack with the intention of seriously hurting anyone.
We're measuring capabilities, nothing more. Don't worry, we know how to control ourselves.
Yeah, let's just have a little fun.
Good, let's begin.
1 second after it started, the Guardians rushed in first. Rex fired an explosive blast toward where both of them were, trying to cover more ground with his explosions.
There they go!
The explosion lit up the room, but when the light and smoke cleared, they realized nobody was there anymore. Invincible froze in shock. He couldn't understand how they had vanished from his sight in an instant. Suddenly, Goku appeared right in front of Rex, stopping his next throw with one hand, preventing him from attacking again.
Good reflexes, but you gotta fire faster.
With a slight flick of his wrist, he pushed Rex back without violence, though the force was enough to make him slide several meters. At the same time, Vegeta appeared above them, so Immortal launched himself upward and collided with Vegeta in midair. Both fists slammed together, creating a shockwave that made the cameras tremble. But Vegeta accelerated and sent Immortal back down to the floor. The force of the impact left Immortal stunned. He'd been pushed back with incredible ease.
You really are strong.
That's unbelievable.
Don't tell me you're already tired. I still have plenty left. Let's keep going.
While they continued fighting, Adam Eve created a pink energy field, trying to trap Goku inside. The force field snapped shut, but Goku shattered it effortlessly and rushed toward her at high speed.
Whoa! You can create things with your powers? That's useful.
When her force field failed, Adam Eve started putting up multiple barriers to slow him down. But Goku destroyed each one with a single controlled strike, generating a gust so strong the barriers couldn't withstand it. Adam Eve was left speechless. Her defenses felt like paper in front of him. Seeing Eve struggling, Invincible joined the fight quickly, trying to land a hit on Goku, but no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't. He lost him from sight every single time.
They're too fast! I can't follow them with my eyes!
Before Invincible could even blink, Goku appeared in front of him, grabbed his arm, and threw him into Adam Eve, knocking them both back. At the same time, Rex attacked again alongside Duplicate and Shrinking Ray. Duplicate began multiplying around Vegeta, trying to overwhelm him with numbers, while Shrinking Ray used her size-changing ability to attack from different angles. But before they could even touch him, Vegeta let out a small smile.
More numbers! You really think that works?
In an instant, Vegeta released a small burst of energy, generating an aura so intense it blasted all the clones away, including Shrinking Ray, without seriously injuring them. Duplicate stepped back in shock. The pressure in the air was so strong she couldn't advance no matter how hard she tried. Even Immortal, one of the strongest on the team, couldn't push forward while flying. And in an instant, Vegeta shot straight at Immortal, landing a kick that slammed him into the wall. Then he moved through Duplicate's clones, taking them down with a rapid flurry of strikes in a single blink. And finally, Vegeta simply pushed Shrinking Ray with one finger, careful not to harm her in her small form. After the entire team was brought down, Immortal immediately raised his hand to stop the fight.
Enough!
Hearing that, Goku and Vegeta lowered their guard almost at the same time, completely relaxed as if nothing had happened. Silence filled the room for a few seconds as everyone caught their breath. Rex looked at his trembling hands.
They really are on another level. I couldn't do anything.
No matter how many of us there were, they kept finding a way to break our guard. Their control is incredible. They could have seriously hurt us, and they didn't. I knew they were strong, but the gap between us was bigger than I thought. Immortal walked up until he stood in front of them. He held Vegeta's gaze first, then Goku's. There was no arrogance in his expression, only recognition.
I've been fighting for centuries, and let me tell you, you have strength and speed far beyond what we're used to. We truly appreciate your help.
Immortal extended his hand as a sign of respect. They were powerful warriors.
It will be an honor to have you on our side against Angstrom.
Goku shook his hand firmly with a wide smile, while Vegeta kept his usual expression.
We're ready to. Good. Now I actually think we have a chance.
Invincible looked at Goku and Vegeta with deep admiration, not just as allies, but as something more, as examples, as warriors who had carried shadows like his and still kept moving forward, refusing to let their race's nature define them. Invincible felt calmer. For the first time since Angstrom, he truly felt like they weren't alone. But then the lights in the room began to flicker and an alarm started blaring throughout the entire complex. Everyone looked up at the same time as Cecil appeared on the giant screens, his expression more serious than usual, showing this was a crisis. We have multiple global disturbances. Repeat, multiple conflict points simultaneously in over 20 major cities. And that's not all. Everything indicates the attackers look identical to Invincible, which can only mean one thing. Angstrom is attacking. You'd better move immediately. Military forces aren't enough. Invincible was furious at the situation, but especially at the destruction Angstrom was causing because of him. Cecil's right. We have to go as fast as possible, or there will be more victims! Before Cecil could continue explaining, a brutal crash shook the Pentagon base. A shockwave tore through the room, making everyone turn toward the main entrance, and they realized the reinforced wall had been shattered by two figures who slowly emerged through the dust. They were two variants of Invincible, known as Viltrumite and Prisoner Mark. One wore the Viltrumite uniform, while the other wore a completely shredded white suit, showing he had been experimented on. So this is where you are! I knew this was the headquarters of those so-called heroes. The Guardians reacted fast and took combat stances instantly, but Invincible stepped forward and positioned himself in front of his evil variants, looking at them with pure contempt. Stop right now! I won't let you do whatever you want! Goku and Vegeta stopped Mark before he did something reckless, stepping in front of him to face the evil variants. Both variants stared at Goku and Vegeta for a moment because they vaguely remembered what Angstrom had mentioned about intruders. Wait, Angstrom mentioned something about two guys who slipped in. Is it you? Possible. I've never seen them among the Guardians, not before I came part of the Empire. Fine, then we'll take them first. The rest should be easy. After saying that, the variants rushed straight at them with full force, ignoring the rest of the Guardians so they could focus on what they considered a new challenge. Viltrumite tried to land a punch in Vegeta's face, but his fist was instantly caught with one hand, leaving him completely stunned. What? That's it? The variant got furious at that comment and tried to force the blow, his muscles tensing. Vegeta only stared at him with contempt because the variant's attacks were basic. Pathetic. Vegeta tightened his grip on the variant's fist so he couldn't escape, then drove a punch into his face, slamming him into the ground with such force that the floor cracked apart. Meanwhile, the other variant tried to crush Goku with both arms, but Goku blocked it instantly. Prisoner Mark couldn't believe Goku could react to his attacks. No one had ever done that to him. When the first strike didn't work, he unleashed a barrage of attacks, but Goku blocked every one of them with precision and speed the variant couldn't even perceive. You've got good strength, but you're way too tense. You let your impulses control you, and you attack without control. That makes you predictable. Shut up! I don't need any of that to fight. My strength is more than enough. Even if I don't know Invincible that well, I can tell you're nothing like him. Don't compare us to that loser. He doesn't understand we're more than simple heroes. We can take whatever we want. I'd never have him in my empire. That says everything. After that, Goku vanished and appeared behind him, charging an energy attack directly at his back. In that instant, Prisoner Mark felt an overwhelming power, so much that for the first time, he froze. How? How can someone be this powerful? I'm sorry, but this is what you chose. In that instant, Goku released the energy from his hand into the variant, disintegrating him completely in front of everyone. Now that they had dealt with them, Goku looked toward Invincible and the rest of the Guardians. Looks like we're done here. You guys should split up and catch the rest of the variants. Are you sure? Don't worry. I'm sure you can stop them if you fight together, but we have to cover a lot of ground. Alright, Guardians, we have to move. Priority is protecting civilians and stopping Invincible's variants. After that, the Guardians prepared themselves and rushed out into the city to find the remaining Mark variants and stop them from causing more damage. However, Invincible hesitated for a second and decided to go somewhere else, so he could help more people while the Guardians handled the main city. I have to go, but I wish you luck. Thanks, Mark. I promise everything will turn out fine. Invincible flew off at full speed after saying goodbye, disappearing into the clouds. Meanwhile, the Saiyans were ready to prove Angstrom had gravely underestimated them by trying to stop them with those evil variants. We have to move too. Let's hurry. Alright, then I'll go on my own too. That'll be faster. Goku flew off, heading toward another city the heroes hadn't reached yet. Before Vegeta left, he approached the rubble where he had slammed Viltrumite, finding him barely alive. Before the variant collapsed from his injuries, Vegeta grabbed him by the uniform and questioned him about Angstrom. Listen closely, because I'm not repeating myself. Tell me where Angstrom is. Viltrumite spat blood to the side, then looked at him with contempt. What makes you think I'm gonna tell you anything? Vegeta tightened his grip on the fabric of the Viltrumite uniform, forcing him to answer. Answer my question. Viltrumite let out a rough laugh. I don't know. I only came to this place because I wanted to take this world for my empire. And even if I did know where he is, I wouldn't tell you. So have fun looking for him like a dog. Vegeta sighed in annoyance, realizing this was going nowhere. Then our conversation is over. Without another word, Vegeta drove one final blow into the Viltrumite's chest, finishing him completely and letting his lifeless body drop to the ground. I'll find you wherever you are, Angstrom. Vegeta rose into the air and vanished at high speed toward another city, searching for the remaining variants, because he knew they would somehow lead him to Angstrom. Elsewhere in the country, Goku was flying over a city that had been hit by the attack. Several vehicles were overturned and smoke rose from buildings. Goku descended slowly, scanning the destruction with a frown. This really got out of control. Suddenly, Goku turned his head when he sensed a particularly twisted energy, and on top of that, he heard a scream through the destruction. In the middle of a shattered avenue stood Sinister Mark, wearing a dark suit stained with blood, his expression cold and cruel as he held a civilian by the hair and dragged her across the ground, enjoying the terror in her face. Come on, scream louder! I want everyone to hear what happens when they oppose me! The woman tried to break free with the strength she had left, begging him for mercy. Annoyed by her struggling, Sinister Mark tightened his grip, ready to slam her into the pavement with enough force to crush her. But before he could, something grabbed his arm, stopping him completely. What? Sinister Mark's eyes widened when he saw someone holding his arm. No one should have been able to do that. The Viltrumite tried to move, but he couldn't. Goku's strength felt like an immovable object, and he wasn't even straining. Let her go! After saying that, Goku tightened his grip on Sinister Mark's arm, causing such intense pain that he twisted and released the woman. Goku caught her immediately so she wouldn't fall. Sinister Mark staggered back, clutching his arm, the pain too much to endure. Don't worry, you're safe now. Goku set the woman aside so she'd be out of danger while he dealt with Sinister Mark. You bastard! How dare you hurt my arm like that? From what you were about to do, it's obvious you're more twisted than your other variants. I have more ambition than those cheap copies. That's why I do this. So that's why you joined Angstrom? Sinister Mark nodded, almost proud. His voice lowered a bit, like he was confessing something intimate. Truth is, I don't like that guy. But Angstrom doesn't just open portals, he opens possibilities. He's seen worlds where I won. Worlds where I got tired of pretending and took everything I wanted. So when he told me about this world full of heroes who think they're special, I knew my power could spread across worlds. Not a conquest like the Viltrumites, but so I can enjoy myself however I want. You say the rest of your variants are inferior, but you only fight to make others feel small and feed your own twisted fun. You're worse than them. At least here, there's one who's trying to make a difference. Shut up! Don't analyze me like you're trying to lecture me. You don't know anything about me, and honestly, I'm done talking. Sinister Mark lunged at him immediately after that. He had only talked to buy time while the pain in his arm faded. That way, Sinister Mark managed to land a heavy punch to Goku's face, intending to rip his head off, creating a powerful shockwave that made the asphalt sink beneath their feet. But to his surprise, the punch did nothing. Goku still stood there, unmoved. You asked for it. With that, Goku drove a clean punch into his jaw. Sinister Mark felt the world flip upside down as his body shot straight into the sky like a bullet. Sinister Mark stopped himself in midair, stabilizing with so much effort that his muscles tensed harder than ever. When his vision stopped blurring, his expression turned into pure rage. He couldn't tolerate what Goku had done to him. Bastard! Bastard! Where are you? Sinister Mark dropped like a meteor to find him, and as soon as he reached him, he unleashed a rain of punches at maximum speed, each one capable of destroying buildings. But Goku only moved as much as necessary, tilting his head or turning his torso effortlessly. Sinister Mark started losing control. "What the hell are you?" "Someone who won't let you hurt anyone else." Sinister Mark instantly pulled back when he heard that, like his instincts were warning him about the danger Goku represented. Then his eyes locked onto a nearby skyscraper, and a desperate idea formed in his head. He flew to the damaged building with all his strength and ripped out a massive section, hurling it at Goku to finish him off once and for all. "Then die with the people you protect!" The giant mass of rubble flew straight at Goku, followed by more chunks torn from rooftops and walls, thrown one after another, trying to crush him with sheer force. But Goku simply raised his hands, firing energy blasts that pulverized every piece of rubble and wall, especially the massive chunk, leaving only smoke behind, as if the air itself had erased them. Sinister Mark froze, breathing hard from the panic rising in him, because his mind finally understood what his pride refused to accept. For him, this was never an even fight. It was an execution that Goku was choosing not to carry out yet. Sinister Mark stepped back, and for the first time, his voice wasn't arrogant, it was afraid. "No, this can't be!" Before he could do anything, he felt a presence behind him that made his skin crawl. It was Goku, who had teleported right behind him. Sinister Mark swallowed, and that simple gesture betrayed him, because Sinister Mark never hesitated. Sinister Mark never felt fear, and yet, he felt it. He felt small and ridiculous in front of him, like an ant trying to push a mountain. "No! No! I refuse to let it end like this!" With one last effort, Sinister Mark tried to attack with a violent, desperate spin, hoping to land any hit at all. But in that instant, a wave of ki struck him before his fist could complete its swing, sending Sinister Mark's body flying into the clouds, tearing through them like paper. And once he reached high enough, an explosion swallowed him completely, disintegrating him entirely. Goku lowered his hand and stared upward for a few seconds, making sure nothing remained of that twisted version. Then Goku turned around and flew back to the woman he had saved, lifting her carefully because of her injuries. "It's over. Let's get you somewhere safe." Goku brought her near a group of civilians being evacuated, where paramedics rushed to treat her. However, Goku looked around again, sensing more energies in the distance, energies belonging to the remaining variants. Elsewhere, far away in another city, Vegeta stood surrounded by a squad of evil Invincibles. They were ready to attack him with everything they had, but Vegeta only smiled confidently, ready to teach them a lesson for what they had done. After the Mark variants attacked, heroes from all over the world rushed to stop them. Sinister Mark was one of the first to fall to Goku, who had no choice but to eliminate him. Meanwhile, in a different city, Vegeta found himself face to face with 4 Mark variants, who didn't hesitate to close in and confront him. The wind blew through the ruined buildings as Vegeta stood motionless in the center of the city, surrounded by some of the most prominent Invincible variants. Mohawk Mark cracked his neck impatiently, while Mask Mark tilted his head slightly. Omni Mark kept his arms crossed, and long-haired Mark smirked arrogantly, all of them certain they had the fight won. "So, you're the intruder Angstrom logged. You don't look like much." Vegeta let out a short scoff at the comment, crossing his arms without showing the slightest bit of interest. "I have no intention of wasting my time with defective copies. So if you're going to talk so much, at least do it while you attack." Vegeta's provocation had an immediate effect, causing the 4 to lunge at him from different angles. But Vegeta vanished from his spot at the very last second. In the blink of an eye, he reappeared behind Mohawk Mark, driving an elbow into his back that sent him crashing into Mask Mark. Both of them smashed into one of the destroyed buildings, while Omni Mark and Long-Haired Mark tried to seize the opportunity to strike from behind. Omni Mark threw a straight punch at Vegeta's face with so much force that the air pressure shattered the surrounding windows. But the Saiyan barely turned his head a few inches, letting the blow sail past him. Omni Mark was left speechless, but before he could react, Vegeta grabbed the Viltrumite's arm and hurled him into Long-Haired Mark, who was coming up from behind, making them crash into each other and hit the ground. On the other hand, Mask Mark burst out of the rubble with his suit torn, furious at Vegeta's humiliation. He shot toward him to deliver a full-power spinning kick. Mohawk Mark followed his variant, aiming to crush Vegeta with a two-handed slam. But the Saiyans simply raised one arm and blocked the Mask Mark's kick without moving a single inch. After that, he leaned to the side, letting Mohawk smash his hands into the ground instead of him. Immediately after, he punched Mask Mark in the stomach, knocking the wind out of him, before grabbing Mohawk Mark by the hair and hurling him into the sky. He would plummet back down a few minutes later. "Aren't you going to get up?" It was obvious Vegeta had them completely outclassed, a fact that only infuriated the Mark variants further. Unwilling to tolerate such humiliation, they all got back on their feet to continue. "Stop getting in the way! I'll kill him! If you weren't so impulsive, we'd have been done with this by now. Shut your mouths and just attack!" With that said, the four threw themselves at Vegeta again, but this time with zero coordination. They crashed into each other and shoved one another as they jockeyed for the best position to strike. However, they accomplished nothing by getting in each other's way. Their strikes were so clumsy that Vegeta didn't even need to move from his spot to dodge them. "Pathetic! You can't even cooperate to crush a single enemy!" In a desperate move, Mask Mark tried to grab him from behind while Omni Mark attacked from the front. But before they could box him in, Vegeta expelled a burst of energy from his body, blasting them in all different directions. The ground cracked under Vegeta's power. Surrounded by an intense aura, he glared at the variants with pure contempt. They all hesitated for a moment, doubting whether they should attack, as his presence had become far too overwhelming. Still, Mohawk Mark followed his instincts and charged at Vegeta with a roar. But this time, Vegeta wouldn't be as nice. He welcomed him with a direct punch to the face that drew a lot of blood, slamming him into the concrete shortly after and completely disintegrating him with an energy blast. Seeing that one of them had fallen, the others tried to use the opening for a surprise attack. Mask Mark attempted to exploit the gap, but Vegeta spun around and unleashed another energy blast that left him falling to the ground, completely charred. Omni Mark attacked with a brutal combination of punches and kicks, but Vegeta blocked two of the strikes and retaliated with a flurry of blows to the torso. So fast that the Viltrumite could barely process them before a final kick finished him off, sending his lifeless body to the ground. Long-haired Mark was the last one standing, trembling with rage and disbelief at the Saiyan's strength. What the hell are you?" Vegeta just looked at the variant as if staring at an insect, slowly walking toward him to end the fight. "I'm the mistake you made by coming here." Saying that, Vegeta extended his hand and gathered energy in his palm. The Viltrumite tried to back away, but a blast caught him right in the chest, dragging him for miles until he vanished in a distant explosion that lit up the horizon. Once he was eliminated, silence fell over the destroyed city. Every single variant had been defeated by Vegeta. High above all the chaos, small circular drones had been recording every second of the fight. They transmitted everything back to Angstrom's hideout. He watched the situation unfold, his face pale and his trembling hands resting on the console. "No, this isn't possible. Those variants could overpower entire armies. How could this intruder wipe them out?" While Angstrom was overwhelmed with panic, Vegeta felt like he was being watched. He glanced up slightly and in a flash, vanished from the ground, reappearing in midair right in front of one of the drones. Before the tiny machine could escape, Vegeta pinched it between two fingers like a mere fly. Angstrom instinctively took a step back, his heart pounding in his chest. In the lab, the image shook violently as Vegeta's face filled the entire screen. "I know you're watching, Angstrom. You keep hiding behind your allies, but it doesn't seem to be working out for you, does it? Mark my words, I will find your hideout, and when I do, I'll force you to send us home." With that, Vegeta crushed his fingers together, pulverizing the drone. The feed cut to static, leaving Angstrom in total silence, terrified of what would happen when they found him. "Damn it! First that guy, and now this one! What kind of monsters did I bring into this world?" After Angstrom calmed down a bit, he checked on the rest of the drones, which displayed dozens of different angles of the chaos spreading across the planet. On one screen, he watched the Guardians of the Globe coordinating with a precision he had never seen before. Adam Eve trapped two variants inside pink constructs that looked like cages, while Rexplode detonated projectiles non-stop. Further out, Robot directed mechanical squads that backed up Monster Girl in direct combat, taking down the variants thanks to their teamwork. No, they were supposed to be superior! Why are they losing? Angstrom put his head in his hands, breathing heavily as his plans crumbled to pieces. He frantically kept cycling through the drone feeds until the image shifted to a devastated battlefield. Goku was floating in the middle of the city, surrounded by 3 Mark variants. The 3 of them tried to attack, but Goku was faster, striking all of them at the exact same time and leaving them completely defeated on the ground.
Damn, I don't like how this is going.
Angstrom muttered with a cracking voice as he switched to another camera. He saw Vegeta again, advancing through the ruins of yet another city, watching as he wiped out more variants in an instant, only to then destroy the drone spying on him. Angstrom slammed his fist onto the console in sheer rage, realizing that none of this was working, all because of Goku and Vegeta. On another feed, he watched more variants trying to regroup, only to be intercepted by the heroes. The plan was falling apart before his eyes. The multiversal army he had worked so hard to assemble was being decimated by 2 warriors that hadn't factored into any of his projections. Angstrom felt true fear for the first time. Fear that this was the end for him, but mostly fear of the overwhelming power of these 2 warriors he had mistakenly brought over.
They can't win! They can't ruin everything!
Angstrom leaned both hands on the table and lowered his head, thinking seriously about what he needed to do. He arrived at only one conclusion.
If I can't win, at least I'll take something back.
Having said that, Angstrom started gathering several of his drones, preparing for his next move. But this time, he would use all of them to achieve his goal. Once that was done, Angstrom approached the screen and saw one of the surveillance drones broadcasting the original Invincible fighting one of his variants. His suit was a bit torn up, but it was clear Invincible had the upper hand in the fight, which wouldn't last much longer. Angstrom glared at the feed with pure hatred. He couldn't stand seeing Invincible get away with it again.
You ruined everything right from the start!
In his desperation, Angstrom didn't hesitate to use his powers to open a portal. He stepped forward, crossing through the dimensional rift alongside a massive wave of drones. Invincible had just taken down his variant when a portal suddenly appeared in front of him. Angstrom emerged from it, accompanied by hundreds of drones, so many that they looked like a metallic swarm. Mark barely had time to turn around.
You again? When are you going to stop, Angstrom? You took everything from me, Mark. My studies, my variants, all the order I wanted to achieve.
Order?
I wasn't the one who brought psychopaths from other universes to kill innocent people. It doesn't matter anymore. I'll use whatever time I had left to rid myself of you once and for all.
Without another word, Angstrom's drones lunged at Invincible, forcing him to take to the skies to dodge them, as their numbers were simply overwhelming. However, the drones intercepted him and struck him in midair, attacking him relentlessly while Mark tried to cover up to minimize the damage. But right then, Angstrom reached out and opened small portals all around Invincible. More drones poured out, looking like metallic waves crashing toward him.
This is where it ends, Mark!
Seeing himself cornered, Mark used all his strength to push through the drones, smashing them to pieces with his fist to get to Angstrom.
Look around you, Mark. Every death caused today is your fault for resisting. It all would have been over if you hadn't insisted on fighting back.
Mark just kept pushing his way through the drones as best he could, but eventually got bogged down by the sheer volume of machines.
No, it's your fault for playing God and trying to force a fake peace on everyone.
Mark launched himself with all his might until he was right in front of Angstrom, landing a solid punch that sent him flying back several meters. However, Angstrom managed to open another portal to kill his momentum, reappearing off to the side while the remaining drones swarmed Invincible once again. Angstrom gasped from the pain of the impact, but he had no intention of letting that stop him. He was dead set on finishing off Invincible.
You don't understand. I saw it all. I saw thousands of versions of you, destroying entire worlds. You're not special.
Maybe I'm not special,
but I'm the one who's here right now, and you're gonna pay for what you did.
Maybe I'm not special, but I'm the one who's here right now,
and you're gonna pay for what you did.
With that, the remaining drones charged their cores to the max and swarmed Invincible in one final, desperate offensive from Angstrom. Even though Mark was taking cuts and blows from the drones, he kept pushing straight toward Angstrom. In response, Angstrom started sending hundreds upon hundreds more drones to end things before Goku or Vegeta could even find him. Seeing that Invincible was starting to look exhausted and his suit was torn, Angstrom began to laugh with a mix of desperation and relief. Yes, this is how it was supposed to end! But then, right in the middle of Angstrom's attack, something dropped from the sky near him. It was the body of the last evil Invincible variant, defeated by none other than Vegeta, who was now floating above Angstrom with his arms crossed, watching the battlefield with complete calm. I finally found you, Angstrom! Invincible looked up from the center of the drone swarm, his eyes widening with relief. You made it! Angstrom took a step back at the sight of Vegeta, so terrified that he actually halted the drones attacking Mark. No, it can't be! Before he could even process it, another presence descended from the sky and hovered right next to Vegeta. It was Goku, looking completely relaxed as he eyed the drones surrounding Mark. Wow, looks like we got here just in time. No, this is impossible! You guys shouldn't have finished so fast! Your armies just turned out to be a waste of time. That can't be true! There were dozens of variants! Well, they didn't seem like much to me. Maybe you should have done your job right. You're right. I thought there would be more. Hearing their comments made Angstrom lose his composure. They were brushing off all his research and hard work as if it meant nothing. Enough! I'm not leaving empty-handed! Attack! With a furious motion, he threw his hands out, and every drone on the field rushed straight at Goku and Vegeta. However, the Saiyans didn't even flinch. They just watched as the drones closed in on them en masse. When they were mere inches away from touching them, Goku and Vegeta released a pulse of energy so powerful that the drones were instantly pulverized. Only a handful of drones that Angstrom had kept in reserve for himself remained. Angstrom stood there, jaw slack and eyes trembling. His weaponry had essentially vanished, and there was hardly anything he could do against them. Angstrom's mind simply couldn't process it. How could beings like this even exist? Did their strength even have a limit? Vegeta looked at Angstrom with absolute disgust. Enough games, Angstrom. You still owe us a ticket home. Angstrom gritted his teeth in rage, raising his trembling arms to use his portals one more time. Shut up! This isn't over! It can't end like this! However, just as he was about to use his powers, Invincible launched himself from the ground at top speed, appearing right in front of Angstrom and hitting him so hard he slammed into the earth. How? Before he could finish his sentence, Mark pummeled him over and over, knocking him completely unconscious on the ground. With that, the last few drones flanking Angstrom powered down, having no one left to give them orders. Mark took a deep breath as he stared at Angstrom's unconscious body, then looked up at the Saiyans with a relieved smile. I'm really glad to see you guys. Goku smiled back. Us too. Good job stopping Angstrom. I would have liked to return the favor myself, but you beat me to it. Not bad, kid. Thanks. That means a lot coming from you two. Now all we have to do is wait for them to send us home. Mark nodded slowly as he activated his suit's communicator. Cecil, do you read me? Angstrom is down for the count. For a few seconds there was only static, but soon Cecil's voice came through the comms sounding clearly relieved. Copy that. I'm also pleased to inform you that satellites show all variants have been eliminated. Looks like we won. Mark looked up at Goku and Vegeta with a smile. Looks like it's finally over. What a relief. Goku enthusiastically gave him a thumbs up. Then let's go regroup with the others. Once the three of them agreed, they flew off, noting how the cities on the horizon showed various signs of damage from the clash with the Invincible variants, though it was minimal compared to the original timeline. Even so, there were still plenty of rescue helicopters and emergency teams moving around, along with a few heroes continuing their patrols just in case anyone was still trapped. Invincible led the way, carrying Angstrom over his shoulder, while Goku and Vegeta followed calmly a few yards behind. I can hardly believe it's over. I thought things were really going to spiral out of control. I don't want to imagine how long this war would have lasted if you two hadn't been here. Honestly, you helped us a lot. Goku stretched his arms a bit as he flew alongside Invincible. Yeah, if we hadn't been around, there would have been way too much damage. That Angstrom guy was out of his mind. I'm not surprised his plan fell apart so fast. Well, it was also fun fighting so many opponents, even if I was expecting a bit more from them. Mark let out a short laugh at the comment as they continued closing in on the Pentagon base, which was already visible in the distance. When they finally touched down in the designated area, several soldiers and GDA agents quickly approached them. The facility's metal doors opened, revealing some of the Guardians of the Globe already waiting inside. Cecil was in the middle of the hangar barking orders to the soldiers as Goku and Vegeta walked up to him. He was taken aback when Mark dropped Angstrom's unconscious body onto the floor in front of him. "Here you go, he's all yours." Cecil studied the body for a moment, then sighed with obvious relief before shifting his gaze to Goku and Vegeta. "I have to admit, for a second there I thought this war was going to be total chaos, but luckily we made it through. Your help was beyond crucial. If this war dragged on for even a few more hours, we would have suffered millions of additional casualties. We just did what we could. We couldn't let that guy get away with it after causing us so much trouble." Cecil made a gesture, and several agents stepped up to haul Angstrom away, securing him with specialized tech restraints. "I'll personally make sure Angstrom remains in custody until he cooperates. Eventually, we'll force him to open a portal to send you back to your world." "Awesome! We're one step closer to going home. At least we don't have to worry about that anymore." "You've done more than enough for today. If you'd like, you can rest up here. The Pentagon has guest quarters and food if you're hungry." "Did you say food?" "That's right. As much as you want. Consider it as a gift from us." "Now that sounds perfect. If that's the case, we'd be happy to stay." A while after all the commotion settled, everyone gathered in the complex's massive mess hall, where long tables were loaded with plates, trays, and bowls holding every kind of food imaginable. The Guardians of the Globe sat alongside Invincible, some still sporting bandages and battle scars. Adam Eve was chatting with Monster Girl, while Rexplode leaned back in his chair, firing off sarcastic comments at Robot. However, the real spectacle was in the center of the table, where Goku and Vegeta were seated in front of actual mountains of food. Goku was devouring entire plates of meat, rice, soup, and bread at a staggering speed, barely chewing before moving on to the next dish. Vegeta wasn't far behind, rapidly scarfing down every dish placed in front of him, making entire trays disappear in minutes. The Guardians stared in sheer amazement, wondering just how much food it took to fill them up. Rexplode just sat there with his mouth hanging open, the first to finally say something. "Hold on, how many plates is that now?" "I think 34. "And they're still not full? Unbelievable." "Is that even physically possible?" "Apparently so." Mark leaned against the table, watching the scene with an amused grin. "I'll admit, they're full of surprises. Maybe Cecil should have thought twice before offering them all the food they could eat." Goku hoisted up another empty plate. "Hey, is there any more meat?" A crew of cooks hurried out with another massive platter, looking a bit concerned at the sheer number of empty plates. "Here you go." "Thanks." Vegeta was polishing off a mountain of rice, talking without ever stopping his meal. "I must admit, the food on this planet is just as good as on ours." "Do you guys always eat like this?" "Of course! We need to get our energy back after a fight." "Exactly! A warrior needs fuel." "So I see. Well, if eating like that is the price for saving the planet, then I guess it's worth it." "Since we don't have much to do until we go back home, we could train again after this. What do you say, Invincible?" Mark raised an eyebrow in interest, as he was keen to learn more about their combat style. "I think I'll take you up on that offer." Now that the war against the variants was over, everyone could finally relax for a moment. They had won, all thanks to the help of Goku and Vegeta, the strongest warriors they'd ever met. After that long day, the situation on Earth slowly began to stabilize. Angstrom was kept locked down in GDA custody, while Cecil and his team figured out how to force him to open a stable portal to Goku and Vegeta's universe. So the next day, Goku and Vegeta decided to continue training with the Guardians of the Globe in the training room, just to stay warmed up until they could go home. The sparring lasted for a couple of hours, though the one who got the most out of it was Invincible. Facing off constantly against warriors like the Saiyans drastically improved his reflexes and combat form. By the time the session ended, Invincible was completely exhausted, but his progress was undeniable. His senses were noticeably sharper, and he could now react with much greater precision, even to attacks he couldn't even track before. Later that same day, while waiting for news from Cecil about the portal home, Goku and Vegeta decided to help rebuild some of the city's damaged areas. Invincible had requested their help, and though it wasn't the kind of thing they normally did, they agreed, figuring they had nothing better to do while Angstrom was locked up anyway. So the three of them went out into the city to help clear out the giant debris, shifting entire chunks of buildings out of the streets. To the civilians and rescue teams, it was a surreal sight. Two warriors lifted skyscrapers like they were toy blocks, without breaking a single sweat. Mark hovered nearby, watching the scene with a smile. It seemed the city was finally starting to look normal again, and people could go back to their lives. But right at that moment, something unexpected happened, making Goku and Vegeta look up. Both of them had just sensed a massively powerful presence, far greater than any Earth hero or evil variant. Noticing that Goku and Vegeta were staring up at the sky, Mark decided to do the same to see what had caught their attention. And then he saw it. A figure plummeted through the clouds like a living meteorite, finally coming to a halt in midair just a few feet above them. What? It was a massive man wearing a Viltrumite uniform and a cybernetic arm. He'd been sent to check on Mark's progress on Earth. It was none other than Conquest, the second most powerful Viltrumite in existence. Ready for my arrival, worm? Conquest's arrival had drawn the attention of everyone present. Even the nearby rescue workers stopped what they were doing, some looking up in fear as that gigantic man floated over the destroyed street as if it were nothing. Goku tilted his head slightly while crossing his arms, observing the guy with curiosity rather than worry, since his appearance wasn't ordinary at all, especially with his metallic arm. Vegeta also stared at him with a cold expression while analyzing every detail of the stranger. Wow, that guy has a pretty strong presence. He's not another one of this planet's warriors, is he? While both tried to figure out his identity, Mark instantly realized he was a Viltrumite just by seeing his uniform he was wearing, though he didn't seem to be like the rest of the Viltrumites he had seen so far. No, he's a Viltrumite! Goku and Vegeta looked curious upon hearing Invincible's declaration, as it was the first time they had met another Viltrumite. A Viltrumite? Really? Yes, it's the uniform of their empire. There's no doubt about it. I see. So that must be one of those space conquerors you told us about. Mark nodded slowly without taking his eyes off the newcomer. And he doesn't seem to be just anyone. I know that just by looking at him. You are right. My name is Conquest, and I'm the final warning for this planet. Conquest observed the scene with absolute calm, focusing mainly on Invincible. But then his eyes shifted to the sides, noticing the two men floating next to Mark. You're not Viltrumites, and you don't seem to belong to any system I recognize, nor do you look like any of the other races we've conquered. Yet, you're floating next to him as if you were allies. Tell me, boy, are they reinforcements or simply witnesses to your failure? Invincible gritted his teeth without answering immediately, his body tense, knowing perfectly well what the presence of someone like him meant. Meanwhile, Goku tilted his head slightly with a calm expression, taking a small step in the air as if approaching with interest. Hey, take it easy! We just got here and you're already talking like all this is decided. Are all Viltrumites like this? He doesn't even know who we are and he's already assuming he's in control of the situation. Quite presumptuous of him, but I expected as much from a race of conquerors. Conquest didn't react immediately to their comments, as he was still trying to understand Goku and Vegeta's true nature. However, he couldn't reach a conclusion, which he found annoying. In all my years, I don't recall seeing beings like you, and yet I sense no fear from you. That leaves only two possibilities. Either you're ignorant, or you're strong enough not to fear me. Goku smiled even more upon hearing what he said, replying calmly as he floated carefreely. You could say it's a bit of both. We don't know much about your empire, but we also don't like backing down when someone arrives with that attitude. Though there's also the fact that you don't impress us. Conquest let out a soft laugh at their comments, one laden with restrained violence. How interesting. Truly interesting. But unfortunately, this has nothing to do with you. This is an internal matter of the Viltrumite Empire, so I'll make this simple. Leave now, out of my sight, and perhaps I'll allow you to continue existing on this insignificant planet. Invincible immediately stepped forward, interposing himself without hesitation, his voice heavy with tension and determination. No, it doesn't work like that. You can't just arrive and... Before he could finish, Conquest closed the distance at high speed. The simple gesture was enough to violently compress the air, passing right next to Mark as if it were nothing. Silence! I'm speaking to those who clearly do not understand the magnitude of what is happening. You are the reason I'm here, son of Nolan. Goku slowly lowered his arm, his expression shifting to a more serious, though still calm, look. So you came for him? I see where this is going. Conquest nodded slowly, as if there were no longer any need to beat around the bush. Nolan received a clear mission. Prepare this planet for its integration into the Empire, eliminate any resistance, and secure its dominion. But instead of that, he chose to betray us, and now his own son is the one who must correct that mistake. Invincible clenched his fists, his breathing growing heavier while his eyes never left Conquest. I'm not going to do that. Never! It's not a choice. You will fulfill your purpose and conquer this planet, or you will prove to be a failure, just like your father. Goku took a small step forward, his energy beginning to rise subtly, barely perceptible, but enough to shift the atmosphere. Hey, I don't think you're understanding something important here. He already made his choice. Conquest slowly turned his head toward Goku, his expression hardening for the first time. Not out of uncontrolled anger, but with absolute clarity about what was coming next. That means I'll have to force him. Fantastic. Conquest smiled with a twisted excitement. He wanted them to resist so he would have an excuse to fight with all his might. If Mark won't fulfill his mission, then I'll fulfill it in his place. And I'll start with this city. I will level it until nothing remains, until he understands what it means to defy the Viltrumite Empire. And if you decide to stay, you'll be eliminated along with everything else. Finally, you say something worth listening to. Are you sure about this? Don't worry, Mark. We won't let anything happen to the city. Goku kept that confident smile as he flexed his arms slightly, as if prepping for a simple sparring session rather than a battle that could erase the entire city. Vegeta, for his part, stepped forward with his characteristic confidence, his gaze locked on Conquest as if he had already decided that this opponent was his from the very first instant. However, amidst that critical point where everything indicated the next move would unleash a catastrophe, Goku naturally turned his head slightly toward Vegeta. Hey Vegeta, who goes first? I don't know, but I think there's a way to settle it. Goku raised a hand with a broader smile, completely unbothered. Sure, rock, paper, scissors. Winner fights first. Invincible blinked in confusion after hearing that, thinking he might have misheard. He couldn't understand why Goku and Vegeta wanted to decide something so important with a simple game. Vegeta clicked his tongue in annoyance, but still raised his hand. I don't have time for games, Kakarot. Let's just get it over with. Alright, here goes. Realizing they were serious, the area was filled with silence for a few minutes, as if the world itself had paused in disbelief. Invincible opened his mouth slightly, not knowing what to say, while Conquest remained motionless. His mind, however, was trying to process whether this was a mockery or a display of completely abnormal confidence. Are you joking? After he said that, both Saiyans extended their hands and moved them in unison while saying quite normally, Rock, paper, scissors! The final motion was instantaneous. Goku showing scissors, Vegeta showing rock. The outcome was decided in a fraction of a second. Yes! Just as I expected! Too bad. I really wanted to fight. But, oh well, you get to go first. Invincible couldn't believe what he had just seen. It was as if they both took these kinds of situations lightly. Seriously? You decided it just like that? Conquest remained silent for a few seconds longer, still confused by what they had done right in front of him. In all my years of service, I've never seen anything so insulting. Vegeta took a step forward without even looking directly at him. His aura began to flare up more noticeably, the air around him distorting from the pressure. Don't take it as an insult. Take it as a privilege. You're interesting enough for us to decide who gets to crush you first. Conquest gritted his teeth and his smile grew into a twisted grin. He was clearly offended, but at the same time, thrilled at the prospect of combat. I see. You don't fight together or look for an advantage. This is perfect for me. While both prepared to fight, Goku simply crossed his arms and watched attentively. Come on, Vegeta! Don't take too long! Vegeta only showed a prideful smile upon hearing that comment.
Don't worry, this will end quickly.
Without warning, Vegeta disappeared in an instant, reappearing directly in front of Conquest.
You're coming with me. This place has already had enough problems.
Before Conquest could answer, Vegeta grabbed him by the arm with brutal force, and both shot up into the sky in an instant, ascending at an absurd speed until they were near the atmosphere. Invincible looked up to try and spot them, but due to the distance, he couldn't see them.
He took him away?
Yeah, that way they won't cause as much damage down here. High up in the sky, they both came to a sudden halt, and Vegeta let go of Conquest with a rough motion, floating back a few meters. Conquest's expression now looked completely distorted by a mix of anger and pleasure.
You bastard. Pulling me away from the battlefield and separating me from the others? What kind of warriors are you?
Vegeta looked at him with absolute superiority as he crossed his arms.
I'll answer you if you can keep up with me for more than a minute.
Conquest let out a deep laugh as he prepared to charge at Vegeta with all his might, eager to satiate his hunger for battle.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Then don't hold back.
Conquest shot forward at high speed toward Vegeta, greeting him with a punch charged with colossal force that tore through the air itself. The impact generated a massive shockwave across the area, but the blow never connected. Vegeta had stopped it with a single hand. The sound of the impact slowly dissipated while Conquest's arm remained completely immobilized, restrained by Vegeta's strength. The Saiyan hadn't even changed his expression.
Is that all?
What? Conquest's eyes widened slightly, surprised for the first time, but his smile didn't vanish. On the contrary, it grew even wider.
I'm not done yet.
Without hesitation, he unleashed a rain of brutal strikes, each capable of pulverizing entire mountains. But Vegeta caught them one by one, blocking and intercepting every impact with absolute precision, as if it were all ridiculously slow to him. The air exploded with each clash, and the shockwaves expanded through the sky, but Vegeta stood firm.
Pathetic. You can't even make me step back.
Watch your words. I am the second strongest Viltrumite in the Empire. Conquest increased the intensity and speed of his punches, lashing out wildly at the Saiyan, but the result remained the same. Vegeta stayed in complete control of the battle, looking at Conquest with disdain, as if something about him felt familiar. Vegeta stayed in complete control of the battle, looking at Conquest with disdain, as if something about him felt familiar.
Your fighting style reminds me of someone. A brute who relied too much on his strength, and ended up being crushed effortlessly. His name was Nappa, a warrior who believed that raising planets made him invincible, who thought destruction was the same thing as power, but all he had was unchecked strength and a mind that couldn't keep up with the pace of a real battle.
Conquest didn't react to his words and just charged with more violence, throwing his fist toward Vegeta's face. But this time, the Saiyan didn't block it. He vanished at the last second and reappeared by his side. In a flash, his elbow slammed into Conquest's ribs with brutal force. The impact was so precise and concentrated that the Viltrumite's body doubled over slightly. An internal crunch echoed as a small amount of blood escaped his mouth. Before he could react, Vegeta drove his knee into Conquest's abdomen, launching him a few meters higher. Every blow felt like a mark of pain on Conquest's body, who for the first time was being pushed back without being able to immediately counter.
Rah! Bastard!
In a fit of rage, Conquest tried to counterattack by spinning with a savage swing, but Vegeta dodged it with a simple tilt of his head and buried his fist squarely into Conquest's face. The punch snapped his head violently to the side, sending a fresh spray of blood dispersing into the air, a clear sign that something had shifted. Now it was Vegeta dictating every second of the fight, completely in control.
Now I understand it better. That clumsy way of fighting, that obsession with crushing without thinking. It's not pride, it's not discipline, it's pure, directionless brutality. You're not a warrior, you're just a weapon that others use.
Conquest wasn't paying much attention to Vegeta's comments, totally focused on the fight. His twisted nature made him relish every hit he took, and it was the first time he'd found someone capable of standing up to him.
This is what I wanted. Finally, someone who can hit back.
You could see Conquest's gaze was full of rage and thrill as he said that, giving Vegeta a good idea of his true nature. Shortly after, Conquest went back on the offensive, trying to crush Vegeta with both hands. But he couldn't land a single hit, as Vegeta moved with great agility, responding with an increasingly rapid chain of strikes targeting his ribs, jaw, solar plexus, and neck. Every attack was designed not just to deal damage, but to break his opponent's rhythm, to completely disarm him, something only an experienced warrior could pull off. The next hit was devastating, a direct hook buried into Conquest's abdomen that completely threw off his orientation. His body floated out of control for a few seconds before Vegeta grabbed him by his suit to keep him from getting away. It was obvious that Conquest's body was heavily damaged from all the attacks he had taken, while Vegeta remained completely unscathed, a clear display of the gap between them. Is that all the great Viltrumite Empire has to offer? A dog of war who only knows how to hit blindly? Conquest was breathing heavily, his muscles were at their limit, and his body was bleeding. Yet his smile remained, as if the pain were exactly what he was looking for. I'll be honest with you, even though the Empire asked me to come as a warning, I wanted you to resist. I wanted a good excuse to crush my enemies. On Viltrum, everyone fears me. That's why fighting is the only thing that satisfies me. Crushing and massacring my enemies is highly rewarding. That's why I wiped out every civilization I've ever come across, for my own delight and the glory of the Empire. You talk a lot about the Empire and its conquest, as if that makes you superior and justifies flattening entire worlds. But the reality is that your race is worthless. And I know exactly what I'm talking about, because I grew up in a warrior race that did the exact same thing. After saying that, Vegeta punched him in the stomach, making him writhe in pain. I was part of that, and I led those warriors. And even so, I wouldn't dare call myself what you claim to be. Vegeta held tightly onto Conquest so he would look him in the eye, showing him a gaze full of unbreakable pride. And do you know why I know the difference? Because I'm not a simple conqueror. I'm not a soldier following orders, nor am I a beast that destroys without thinking. I am the proud prince of all Saiyans, and you are nothing but a malformed shadow of what it means to be a true warrior. Conquest looked surprised hearing all that, setting the fight aside for just a moment. You come from a warrior race? That explains a lot. You might be very powerful, but let me tell you one thing. You will never measure up to our Emperor. Oh really? Well, send him a message for me. As Vegeta said that, he stretched out his other arm and slowly clenched his fist. Tell him that whenever he wants, we will decide who is the strongest. Saying that, Vegeta prepared to strike him while holding him firmly. Conquest tried to block the blow with his metallic arm, but it was destroyed in an instant by Vegeta's fist, which slammed into his face anyway. Conquest's body was sent flying by the punch at an impossible speed, tearing through the layers of the atmosphere as if they were paper, leaving a fiery trail in his wake. The attack was so powerful that it instantly ended the life of Conquest, a warrior who had lived for battle and who met his end on Earth. Vegeta remained motionless at that high altitude for a few seconds as he exhaled calmly, as if that had been nothing more than a brief warm-up. After that, his eyes slowly lowered towards the Earth, and without a word, he began his descent, phasing through the cloud layers with the same tranquility with which he had gone up. The air churned in his wake until his figure finally became visible from the surface again, descending with absolute control until his feet touched the ground among the city's rubble. Goku looked up slightly with a calm smile while crossing his arms, as if he already knew exactly how everything had played out. Invincible, however, took a hurried step forward, looking for an answer about Conquest's whereabouts. What happened? Where is he? Did you defeat him? There's nothing left of him. I made him disappear completely. Mark's body barely relaxed upon hearing those words, but his face still reflected tension, as if his mind couldn't process so quickly that someone like Conquest had been eliminated just like that. Really? That guy was completely different from the other Viltrumites. I thought that... I told you! Vegeta took it seriously from the start. When he does that, he doesn't usually leave loose ends. Vegeta averted his gaze with a slight look of annoyance. Don't exaggerate. He was just a brute who relied too much on his own strength. Nothing more.
However, during the fight he mentioned that the Viltrumites have an emperor, and it's likely he'll find out what happened here. Warriors like that don't disappear without someone important noticing, especially if they belong to a structure as organized as the one he described. Silence fell once again for a moment, and Mark clenched his fist slightly as his gaze hardened, feeling worried about what this could mean for Earth. Then this isn't over. Unlike Mark, Goku stepped forward while keeping his smile, but this time with a different gleam in his eyes, one that showed excitement rather than mere confidence. Could be, but that just makes it more interesting. If that Emperor is stronger than the guy from just now, then I want to see him with my own eyes. I knew you would say that, Kakarot. Do you guys really think you can take on something like that? Of course. Take that as a given. Besides, it's my turn to fight next. What do you mean by that? You already had your turn with that Viltrumite, so if someone stronger shows up, I get to fight first. We'll see about that when the time comes. Invincible looked at them both, still harboring doubts, but his breathing slowly steadied as he tried to sort out everything that had just happened. Alright, but even so, we can't just sit around waiting for them to come back. If the Empire acts as a group, it won't be long before they reach Earth. You're right. It's best if we get ahead of things and prepare everything before that happens. I suppose it wouldn't hurt to prevent this planet from becoming an unnecessary battlefield. What do you suggest? At the very least, we should notify Cecil about this. I think that would be the first step. Alright then, let's go right away. Wasting no time, the three took to the air and left the destroyed zone behind, moving at high speed across the city and heading straight for the GDA base. Once they arrived, the three walked down the halls until they reached the main room, where Cecil was waiting for them with his usual firm posture, his serious gaze looking them up and down. You got here fast. That means either everything went very well, or am I wrong? That's right, but it was a much stronger Viltrumite than the previous ones. He said he came for me, and that I had to complete the mission my father left behind. Cecil narrowed his eyes slightly, processing the information rapidly. And where is he now? You don't have to worry about him. I eliminated him completely. Yeah, but that guy mentioned a Viltrumite Emperor, so it's almost certain that things won't end here. I see. Then this is escalating much faster than I expected. In that case, we can't take any chances. If they sent someone like that as a warning, the next attack could be a full-scale invasion. I'm gonna mobilize all available heroes. Before he could finish giving the order, Vegeta raised his hand slightly to stop him. There's no need for you to do that. Cecil turned his head in confusion, trying to understand why Vegeta had stopped him. And why not? Because we can handle them on our own. You're talking about taking on an entire empire by yourselves. Are you sure about this? Because it sounds insane. I know how it sounds, but believe me, we don't need backup from the rest of the heroes. Besides, if you send everyone, this will turn into a disaster. There will be too much chaos and a lot of people could get hurt. That's why it's best to take the fight far away from here. What do you mean by that? He means fighting out of everyone's reach, right up in the sky. Up there, we can fight without worrying about anyone else. And it will be much faster. We won't have to hold back due to collateral damage or protect those who can't keep up. Cecil remained silent for a few more seconds, weighing the risks and probabilities of the situation. He understood that it wasn't a bad option. After all, they were completely different beings, and surely they could handle the threat. The silence that followed was brief, until Cecil exhaled slowly, pausing his plans to alert the rest of the heroes. I'm still not entirely convinced by this plan, but I trust you. Are you really just gonna leave it at that? I shouldn't, but they have a point. Sending more people would only increase the casualties, and I'm in no position to sacrifice heroes unnecessarily. Don't worry, we'll make sure they don't get that far. Right, Vegeta? Right. I just hope fighting the Empire is worth the trouble, because so far their soldiers haven't been much of anything. That's what you think. For us, it's very different. Goku just stretched slightly, as if gearing up for something exciting. I just hope this Viltrumite Emperor doesn't disappoint. Invincible watched them, still bewildered by their way of seeing things. He knew he had just placed the fate of everything in the hands of two warriors who didn't even belong to his world. Yet they had proven to be something completely different from anything he had ever seen before, which gave him a sense of hope.
Meanwhile, high up in the sky, far beyond the visible, there was someone directing his gaze toward Earth. It was none other than Emperor Thragg, the strongest among Viltrumites. After Conquest faced Vegeta and was brutally defeated by him, the Saiyans informed Cecil of the situation. Now that Conquest had been defeated, war against the Viltrumite Empire was inevitable, so they asked him to let them finish off the Empire without the help of the other heroes. After accepting the deal, about 2 days passed. Goku and Vegeta were at the top of a building, thinking a bit about what awaited them for challenging the Empire. "When do you think those guys will show up?" "I'm not sure. Even though I'm half Viltrumite, I don't know anything about how they organize themselves. The only person who could answer that would be my dad." Invincible looked a bit distressed after saying that, since the last thing he knew about his father was that the Empire had taken him, and it was almost certain that they would execute him for his treason. "You haven't told us much about your father during this time, and I understand why, but can you tell us what happened to him?" Invincible thought for a couple of seconds, but decided to tell them what had happened on that occasion. After all, he could trust them. "My dad hid on another planet for a while, one where the inhabitants have a pretty short lifespan. It was there that he decided to have another son, my brother Oliver." "You have a brother?" "Kakarot, don't interrupt." "Yeah, but he was considered an abomination to the Viltrumites, so when they found my dad, they wanted to eliminate him along with my brother. We defeated a few of them, but in the end, they took my dad for treason. I haven't heard anything from him since." Goku and Vegeta kept thinking about everything Invincible had told them, trying to reach a conclusion about his father's whereabouts. However, to everyone's surprise, at that moment 2 figures descended from the sky, making Goku and Vegeta look up first as they sensed their presence. It was Alan and Omni-Man, who had managed to return to Earth after so many repercussions. Invincible looked up and was completely shocked. He didn't even know what to say, but the important thing was that his father was alive. "Dad?" "I know it's not a good time, Mark, but we need you. The war is coming." Goku was surprised to learn that this man was Invincible's father, as he didn't expect to meet him at that exact moment. Vegeta, on the other hand, narrowed his eyes with immediate interest, analyzing every detail of the guy. He immediately sensed that he wasn't just any Viltrumite. His presence was different, more contained, but at the same time denser, while Alan stood by his side with his characteristic relaxed posture. "Wow, so you're his dad. I didn't expect to meet you right now, especially after what Mark told us." "To tell you the truth, I thought you'd be dead or worse, considering you committed treason." Omni-Man didn't respond to their comments right away. His gaze first went to Invincible, observing him with a mix of restrained emotions regarding the situation, but mostly relieved that he was okay. Then his eyes shifted to Goku and Vegeta, trying to identify them and understand why they were accompanying his son. "Mark, I see you're not alone. Who are they?" "That's right, I've never seen you with these people before. Are they your friends?" Invincible took a deep breath, still processing the fact that his father was right in front of him, alive, but knowing there was no time to dwell on that. So he took a step forward, pointing first to Goku and then to Vegeta. "They are Goku and Vegeta. They're Saiyans. They aren't from this planet or this system, but they are incredibly powerful. They helped me protect Earth, defeated threats that not even the Guardians could handle, and they were the ones who defeated Conquest." The silence was immediate after that last sentence. Alan raised an eyebrow in genuine surprise, while Omni-Man stood completely still, processing the weight of those words. "What? Wait, who is Conquest?" "He's the second most powerful Viltrumite. But that can't be possible." "What did you say? The second strongest in the Empire? That's crazy." "Yeah, that's the one, but he wasn't a big deal." "He was strong, but he just threw punches like a savage. He had no coordination at all." Now aware of what had happened, Omni-Man's expression changed slightly, recognizing that these guys weren't just simple allies, but forces that could alter the course of what was to come. "And you say they're Saiyans? I haven't heard that name before, and I've traveled across countless worlds under the Empire's domain. If what you're saying is true, Mark, then they are a variable the Viltrumites haven't considered." "They are, and I trust them to protect Earth. They've proven to me that they can do it."
Omni-Man kept his gaze fixed on his son for a few seconds, evaluating not just his words, but the conviction behind them, and finally nodded slowly. "Alright, Mark. If you trust them, then I will too." "Then I guess we're on the same side now." "Well, that makes things a lot easier, because what's coming isn't exactly something we can handle on our own." "Well, since you're here, you can answer a couple of questions for us." "Very well. But first, let me inform you that the Viltrumite Empire is already on the move. Conquest's death won't go unnoticed, and when they find out, they won't send warnings this time. The Emperor does not tolerate failure, much less from someone like Conquest, so he will surely come in person." Goku crossed his arms as he listened to Omni-Man's explanation, keeping a calm expression the whole time. "Then it's finally gonna get interesting." "I hope so, because if the whole Empire is like that guy, this is going to be disappointing." Omni-Man watched them closely, noticing their total lack of fear, but it didn't seem like that confidence came from ignorance, but rather from certainty. "Do not underestimate the Empire. Their strength doesn't just lie in individuals, but in their numbers, their discipline, and their brutality. They have conquered entire worlds for centuries." Goku just tilted his head slightly without losing his cool. "And we'll just have to put an end to all that." "I like how you think." Invincible took a step forward, looking at everyone with renewed determination. "Then it's official. We're going to face them. Not just face them. We are going to war." Despite that declaration, Goku maintained his calm expression with a slight smile, as if instead of a war, he was eagerly awaiting a challenge. Meanwhile, Vegeta stood with his arms crossed and his gaze fixed on the horizon, imagining every battle to come. "Wow, I can't believe we're talking about this so calmly. A war against the Viltrumites and no one is trembling." "Why tremble? If they're gonna come anyway, we'd better be ready to fight." "He's right. Talking is useless. The important thing is how many are coming to attack us. That's the only thing that matters now." After saying that, Vegeta immediately directed his gaze toward Omni-Man to ask him about the topic. "You already know how this empire works. You've been part of it. So stop beating around the bush and tell us, how many are coming to this planet?" Following that question, there was only silence. Not because Omni-Man didn't have the answer, but because he did. And he didn't know if he should reveal that information to them. He didn't know them fully, and doing so would be crossing a line that couldn't be undone. Goku and Vegeta realized that Omni-Man was overthinking it, as if he didn't want to tell them the truth. Omni-Man clenched his fist slightly as his gaze shifted to the sky for a second, as if he were remembering something he had kept buried for far too long. "Are you going to hide that from us?" "That information isn't something the Empire shares freely." "Nolan, you aren't with them anymore. And after what happened with Conquest, this is no longer a secret worth protecting. We're going to war anyway." Omni-Man still wasn't sure, until Invincible took a step forward to convince him. "Dad, if there's anything we need to know, it's this. So please, say it." After hearing his son's words, Omni-Man exhaled slowly, as if by doing so he was letting go of the weight of years of loyalty, secrets, and lies for the Empire. "All right. If we're going to do this, then you deserve to know the truth." Goku and Vegeta focused their attention entirely on him, eager to hear what he had to say. "The Viltrumite Empire isn't what you think. It's not an infinite force or an indestructible armada. The truth is, there are only about 50 pure-blooded Viltrumites left in the entire universe." Everyone was surprised by that revelation except Alan, since the amount was much smaller than they expected, but mostly because it meant his race was on the verge of disappearing. 50? That makes no sense. Wait, only 50 in the whole Empire? Vegeta slightly lowered his head as his expression changed to a more reflective one, as if this sounded familiar to him. "So they're on the brink of extinction." "Yes, and that's precisely why they're more dangerous than ever. They will do whatever it takes to regain their power." It's ironic, isn't it? An empire that conquered thousands of worlds reduced to just 50 individuals. But how is that possible? A race as strong as that shouldn't disappear like that. Omni-Man closed his eyes for a moment before answering, as if recalling a tragedy that scarred his entire species. "You see, There was a time when the Viltrumite population was counted in the millions. It was a dominant and practically invincible civilization, but everything changed because of one single thing. Goku looked up slightly, interested in Omni-Man's story. One single thing? Omni-Man opened his eyes again before answering, as it wasn't easy for him to remember all the suffering his people went through. A virus. The Scourge virus. Invincible felt a chill run down his body upon hearing his father's answer, while Goku and Vegeta looked surprised to learn the truth. A virus could do that? It wasn't just any virus. It was designed to specifically target Viltrumites. From then on, everything that made us strong began to fade away. Billions died because of the virus. To this day, no cure or treatment has been discovered. Those who contract it die, without exception. Doesn't matter how strong you are. So, the virus just started mercilessly wiping everyone out? Yes. In a matter of years, our population collapsed, and what was left is what you see now. A reduced race, but still clinging to its ideology of conquest. I had no idea it was that serious. But even so, why didn't they think about changing that mindset of conquering after what happened? The Empire's more stubborn and loyal to its Emperor than you think. It's not that simple to change that. On the other hand, Vegeta remained silent for a few more seconds, as everything he had heard from Omni-Man brought back memories of his own planet, of his own race, of how everything had been erased in an instant. A warrior race, reduced to almost nothing, forced to keep moving forward with the little that remains. I know exactly what you mean. Are you saying that you guys also? Yeah, we went through something very similar, but Vegeta's the one who knows more about it. I was raised on Earth. To be honest, you're a lot like Invincible in that regard, although in general your stories seem to be very similar. Vegeta looked up again, his expression hardening once more, his pride returning stronger than before. Anyway, if there are only 50 left, then that means they'll all come. Exactly. They can't afford to lose any more soldiers like Conquest, so if they come, they'll bring everything they have. This definitely won't be easy. But then, if we defeat them, the Empire would practically disappear. Isn't that right? Yes. This war will decide the fate of the Viltrumites. Yes. This war will decide the fate of the Viltrumites. Honestly, I don't feel like wiping out a race that's on the brink of extinction. Is there really no other way? I'm not entirely convinced either, but from what we've seen, they have no mercy for anyone. It's very difficult to imagine a scenario where they surrender. That was partly why we Saiyans were exterminated. Invincible looked up upon hearing that, clearly intrigued by the possibility of the Viltrumites leaving that path of blood, since he had thought about it a long time ago, but had discarded it due to everything that happened in the past. So, do you think it's possible to achieve that if we defeat the Emperor? Omni-Man slowly shook his head, as if that idea was something he had already considered many times and discarded just as often. No, it doesn't work like that. Viltrumites aren't like other races. They don't follow the Emperor just out of loyalty. They do it because that's how they were raised, because that is our nature. Conquest and domination, above all the survival of the fittest, is what we are. But that doesn't mean it can't change, especially now that they're on the brink of extinction. You are underestimating what it means to be a Viltrumite. You're wrong. He's not underestimating them. After saying that, everyone turned to look at Vegeta, even Omni-Man, who was surprised by that response. What you're saying is true. That mentality, that obsession with conquest, with proving superiority, with crushing the weak. All of that defines a warrior race, and it isn't erased with words or good intentions. I know that because we Saiyans were exactly the same. Saiyans lived for that. We destroyed everything in our path, exterminated entire civilizations without any remorse. We only did it for orders and power. That was our nature. The atmosphere grew heavier after those words. Even Alan stayed silent, understanding that what he was hearing wasn't a simple comparison. Goku smiled slightly, crossing his arms. I know it can be complicated, but Vegeta and I are of the same race, And look at us now. Vegeta let out a faint smile after that comment, as everything he had to go through to reach that point came to mind.
Exactly. Look at us now.
Omni-Man narrowed his eyes, clearly processing this seriously. So, are you saying it's possible to change their destiny?
Maybe, but it won't be easy, much less quick. It will take time for them to leave their nature behind.
Besides, if this Viltrumite Emperor is the one keeping everyone tied to that idea of conquest, then we'll just remove him from their path. That way, the rest will have to decide for themselves. Alan crossed his arms, thinking carefully about the idea Goku and Vegeta were proposing.
It makes sense. Without a dominant figure, the Empire could fragment. But even so, nothing is certain when it comes to them.
So, if we defeat him, could the others change?
Maybe. Or they could try to kill us all anyway.
Omni-Man didn't immediately respond to their proposals, as if that idea were something he had avoided considering for far too long.
The biggest problem is that Thragg isn't just the Emperor, he's the strongest Viltrumite in existence. He doesn't rule just by authority, he rules because no one can challenge him. Then it's settled. We'll finish off the Emperor so that at least they have the chance to choose their destiny.
Omni-Man looked down for a moment, clearly conflicted, because what they were proposing wasn't just a strategy, it was placing the fate of his race in the hands of a fight.
You're talking about deciding the future of my species as if it were a simple fight. In part, it is for us, but it's also an opportunity to help you guys.
Exactly, because you already know what's going to happen if we do nothing. They will come and destroy this planet, kill everyone, and we will have to eliminate every single one of them.
And if that happens, not a single one of your species will be left, just like us.
Invincible felt a lump in his chest hearing that, because he knew it wasn't an empty threat. It was a reality. Then we have to try. At least this once. Omni-Man closed his eyes for a moment, as if he were making the hardest decision of his life, because it wasn't just trusting them, it was accepting that his race could change, or disappear.
All right, I will give you that chance, but I will go with you to oversee the situation.
Invincible opened his eyes slightly, surprised that his dad accepted the idea. Are you really okay with this?
If there's even the slightest chance that Viltrumites can be something more than conquerors, then it's worth a try. But we'll be ready for whatever happens. Then it's decided. We're going on a crazy mission against the Viltrumites.
Omni-Man took a step forward, his gaze completely firm now.
Listen to me closely. If this doesn't work, then there won't be any change. Just war.
And if that happens, we'll do whatever is necessary. Now that they'd decided what to do, everyone prepared to intercept the Viltrumites. After a few days of preparation, they all boarded a ship with the help of Alan and Omni-Man, setting a course for the planet Viltrum, ensuring that no one on Earth would be affected. However, exactly as they expected, an Empire ship appeared in their path, right in the middle of space. Alan's ship slowed down immediately as everyone inside looked ahead, as if each of them understood that this moment marked the true beginning of the war. Goku narrowed his eyes with a slight smile, while Vegeta simply crossed his arms with a firm expression. Invincible clenched his fist tightly while Omni-Man observed the scene.
There it is. No doubt about it, they all came.
Omni-Man took a step forward, his gaze hardening instantly.
No, not all of them, but enough to wipe out an entire planet without breaking a sweat.
Before anyone else could say anything, the Viltrumite ship began to open a gigantic airlock, revealing multiple figures that flew out into the vacuum of space, soaring one after another toward their enemies. However, at the forefront of all of them stood Emperor Thragg. Just seeing him made it clear that his figure was more imposing than any other Viltrumites, not only because of his power, but because of the absolute authority he exuded with that cold, calculating gaze, staring directly at Goku and the other's ship.
There he is, Emperor Thragg.
Unlike the rest, Goku took a step forward, maintaining a relaxed smile on his face. So, that's the Emperor.
Finally, someone who looks like he might be worth the effort.
Invincible felt his body automatically tense as he watched them rapidly approach. We have to hurry. Too many are coming. You're right. Let's go. Without waiting any longer, both Saiyans headed toward the ship's exit, opening the hatch with total confidence, as the vacuum of space presented no barrier to them. That way, Goku and Vegeta flew outside, positioning themselves at the front to directly intercept the advancing Viltrumite army. Seconds later, Omni-Man flew out without hesitation, followed by Invincible and Alan, placing themselves behind Goku and Vegeta, forming a line against the Empire. Once the Empire was close enough, Thragg slightly raised his hand, halting the advance of all the Viltrumites around him. His army remained completely motionless behind him, demonstrating the discipline and loyalty they had for their Emperor. In that instant, Thragg's gaze slowly swept over everyone present, until stopping on Omni-Man. "Nolan the traitor! Why am I not surprised to see you here?" The words were cold, devoid of visible emotion, but loaded with absolute condemnation. Omni-Man didn't answer right away, keeping a firm gaze as Thragg turned to look at Invincible. "And you must be his son, the incompetent hybrid who failed to fulfill his purpose. You certainly have nerve coming straight to your death." After saying that, Thragg finally turned his attention to Goku and Vegeta, analyzing them carefully. "I do not recognize you. You aren't Viltrumites, nor do you belong to any race registered by the Empire." "That's because we have nothing to do with your Empire." "Even so, you travel with the traitor Nolan, which makes you our enemies." "Before you do anything, we have something to say to you." "Very well. Speak, before I decide to eliminate you along with the traitors." Goku didn't lose his calm. His voice was clear and direct. "We want you to step down from your rule and to stop forcing the Viltrumites to conquer and destroy. This doesn't have to go on like this. You don't need to keep subjecting them to this life. If you want them to survive, there are other ways. What you're doing is only driving them to extinction." The silence was immediate. The Viltrumites behind Thragg didn't react, but the tension escalated brutally, as if that simple sentence had disturbed something deep within. For a moment, Thragg said nothing, and then a faint laugh escaped him, one that displayed his immense arrogance. "Is this a joke? Two nobodies appear before me and think they can tell me how to lead my empire? And as if that weren't enough, they told you the Empire's greatest secret. You are definitely not making it out of this. We are from a warrior race too. We understand perfectly what it means to live for conquest. That is why we're giving you this chance to take another path." That comment made Thragg's gaze shift slightly, not out of acceptance, but out of interest. A warrior race? You should understand better than anyone that domination is the only way to prevail. You're wrong. Exactly. We're proof of that it's possible to choose another path. Thragg stared at the Saiyans for a few more seconds, and then his expression hardened completely. "No, you understand nothing. Viltrumites do not abandon their purpose. We conquer, or we die." The tension reached its peak with the Emperor's final words, making it clear that conflict could no longer be avoided. Realizing this, Goku and Vegeta exchanged a brief look, understanding perfectly that no more words could change that. "And I guess there's no other way. We'll have to fight." "Perfect. I was getting tired of talking anyway." Without warning, both began to raise their energy abruptly, so much so that the vacuum of space seemed to vibrate around them with an invisible pressure expanding in all directions. Even the Viltrumites felt that shift, and their bodies tensed. Omni-Man narrowed his eyes because of the glare emanating from Goku and Vegeta's bodies, confused by what was happening. Alan and Invincible were just as surprised. They couldn't understand what this intense energy was. "What are they doing?" "I don't know. It's very different from everything they've done so far. This energy is incredible." "I never thought these guys were like this." Goku and Vegeta's energy continued to surge, making the space around them tremble as their power ascended to levels that none of those present had ever felt before. And a few seconds later, they both unleashed their energy completely, illuminating the entire vacuum of space with their power as their hair changed, spiking up and turning golden. Their eyes took on a bright emerald shade, and their auras burned as if they were fire itself. The wave of energy expanded brutally. Even the Viltrumites were forced to brave themselves against the pressure and shield their eyes. The golden glow lit up the entire area as if two stars had been born in front of them. And it was then that Goku and Vegeta revealed their new appearance, the Super Saiyan. Now that the transformation was complete, Omni-Man slightly widened his eyes, rendered speechless by what he was seeing. Invincible was completely shocked by their new look, having never seen them do that before.
This isn't possible.
What is this? Good heavens, they're blonde! Thragg didn't back down, but his gaze changed for the first time. He was surprised to see both warriors, who now radiated a power completely beyond what he knew. Even the rest of the Viltrumites were astounded by such power.
What the hell are you?
Goku slightly lowered his stance, ready to fight, his aura burning intensely. This is the power of a Saiyan who surpassed his limits.
With this, you will now understand that you are not an absolute force, Thragg.
The golden glow illuminated the battlefield, and the Saiyan's message had been clear to Thragg. The war had just begun, one that would decide the fate of the Viltrumites.
After Thragg declared war on Invincible, Goku and Vegeta decided to transform into Super Saiyans in front of everyone, dazzling the Empire with their immense power. Thragg was utterly perplexed by what he had just witnessed. Those two Saiyan warriors radiated such overwhelming power that even he could feel it. However, he refused to accept that a species superior to him could exist.
No, this changes nothing. No matter how much power they show, no matter what kind of power they're using, I am the Emperor of the Viltrumites, and no stranger will come to challenge my authority.
After saying that, Thragg directed his gaze toward his army and immediately ordered them to fight.
Attack!
Despite having heard the Emperor's order, none of the Viltrumites moved, as their eyes were still fixed on the golden glow emanating from Goku and Vegeta. The most feared army in the universe was now completely motionless, but not just out of common fear, rather by instinct, as if their bodies were warning them of something far above them. Thragg's face immediately tensed upon seeing his empire show weakness, so he raised his voice to address them.
What are you waiting for? I gave you an order!
The Viltrumites still did not react to the situation, so Thragg clenched his fist tightly and grabbed one of them by the neck to force them into action.
I said advance!
Thragg's shout finally made the Viltrumites react to his authority, forcing them to charge forward and attack the Saiyans with all their might. However, Thragg did not stop there, as his gaze immediately shifted toward the massive ship behind them.
Activate the ship's full weaponry. Destroy them all!
The ship responded immediately, and multiple systems lit up at once, cannons charging, energy accumulating in massive quantities as they aimed directly at Goku, Vegeta, and the rest of their allies. Omni-Man opened his eyes in surprise upon seeing the ship's weaponry, as the situation was becoming far too dangerous.
He's going to use the ship's full power! Get away!
Oh no, that'll destroy everything in its path! While the others were worried about the imminent attack, Goku maintained a calm expression, even with the army charging toward him and the cannons aimed at them. Hey Vegeta, this time it's my turn to fight the Emperor. I hope you don't have a problem with that.
Do whatever you want, Kakarot, but don't take too long.
I'll try not to. After that last comment, Vegeta looked at the ship and made a decision.
Perfect. Then I'll take care of that.
Without warning, Vegeta flew off at high speed, crossing the battlefield in an instant while the first Viltrumites approached Goku. But in that exact moment, Goku launched himself head-on against them, striking every single Viltrumite of the Empire in a flash, leaving them completely stunned by the impact. Invincible and his father could only watch in surprise at what had happened, unable to comprehend exactly what Goku had done, as they hadn't even managed to see him attack. This was all because Goku's speed was on a completely different level. However, Goku had been merciful and only knocked them out, as he didn't want to wipe them out just yet.
Did you see what he did? Because I didn't.
All the Viltrumites were defeated in an instant. Thragg was stunned by such a display of strength, but he refused to back down before another species challenging him. I think we can fight now without anyone interrupting us.
You speak as if this were a simple test of strength. But do not underestimate me. I am the regent of the planet Viltrum, and I'm going to show you why.
Let's see if you're really as strong as they say. Following the exchange of words, both disappeared at high speed, clashing in the vacuum of space at an absurd velocity. Thragg attacked with brutal force, generating impacts that resonated throughout the entire area, shattering several meteors floating nearby, while Goku held back just to gauge the Emperor's strength. Meanwhile, Vegeta had already reached the Empire's ship, tearing through the main cannon without stopping, entering directly into the ship's structure like a living spear. Even though the Empire's reinforced metal was incredibly durable, it was no obstacle for Vegeta, who continued to destroy everything in his path, neutralizing the cannon's fire.
Pathetic! Is this all you have?
Vegeta began spinning like a drill as he flew, easily shredding the ship's generators along with its defense systems and internal weaponry, triggering an endless chain of explosions. From the outside, the ship began showing very visible damage, something Invincible and the others noticed immediately. Alan opened his eyes wide in surprise and disbelief as he gazed upon the overwhelming level of destruction Vegeta was causing. Even Invincible and his father were shocked, especially Nolan, who couldn't believe his son had such powerful allies.
Good heavens! That guy's destroying the ship from the inside all by himself!
He's going straight through it.
Where did you meet these guys, Mark?
As they continued to watch, Vegeta shot out through the top of the ship, piercing through multiple layers of armor in a straight line until he finally destroyed the ship's core, causing the entire structure to begin collapsing. Everyone outside could see the ship starting to crumble, leaving the Viltrumites completely disarmed. Meanwhile, Goku and Thragg continued their battle, moving at incredible speeds, exchanging blows that made space itself vibrate. However, the ship's destruction immediately caught Thragg's attention, leaving him utterly bewildered by what Vegeta had done. But before he could say anything, he was met with a punch to the face from Goku, all because he had lowered his guard. That blow had actually hurt Thragg quite a bit, making him realize that Goku was doing nothing but holding back against him, which only irritated him further.
You still have time to surrender, Thragg. It's the only way to resolve this.
Thragg clenched his fist tightly, feeling more furious than ever. His entire empire had been defeated and his ship destroyed, all because of the Saiyans.
No, I will never do that. I prefer death.
After saying that, Thragg lunged forward, flying at top speed toward Goku to attack him, and using all of his strength, he delivered a powerful, direct punch to his face. However, the Regent was left speechless upon seeing that his strike hadn't moved Goku a single millimeter. It was like a wall he couldn't break through. And not only that, but his arm began to ache from the impact, since he had attacked with all his might.
Not bad, but I expected more from the Viltrumite Emperor.
Ugh! Shut up! This isn't over yet!
Thragg retreated a few meters, breathing heavily. The hand he had used to strike Goku was still trembling slightly from the pain of the impact, something he had never felt when attacking another being. In that moment, Thragg desperately tried to find a weakness, anything that would allow him to regain control of the situation, but all he saw was the figure of a calm warrior, one who could not be defeated. Behind him, the remains of his ship burned in scattered fragments, and most of his soldiers were either floating unconscious or barely regaining their senses. This was no battle, it was the collapse of everything he had ever built.
No, this shouldn't be happening. I refuse to let my empire fall just because of the intervention of two strangers.
It's no longer about the empire, Thragg. It's about choosing what you'll do with it. While Goku continued addressing the Emperor, Vegeta positioned himself next to him, crossing his arms as he was done dealing with the Viltrumite ship.
Kakarot, I see you're still playing around too much.
I just wanted to give him one last chance. Thragg looked at them both, two golden warriors, two forces that went beyond his comprehension. For the first time, real fear brushed across his mind, not as cowardice, but as the brutal realization that something existed above him. And as if that weren't enough, Invincible and his father also approached, ready to confront the Regent once and for all.
Enough, Thragg. This is over.
You have the nerve to address me after everything you've done,
turning your back on your people.
We're offering you another path, one you're incapable of accepting because you cling to the idea that strength is all that matters.
We are here to bring order to the chaos with our strength. That is why the Emperor must rise and rule over all species. That is our duty. Listen to me carefully, Thragg, because I will only say this once. I am the Prince of all Saiyans, heir to a warrior race that also lived for conquest, and that also believed power justified everything. I know exactly how a kingdom built on brute strength functions, and also how a leader who rules by crushing his own people thinks. I know how all of that ends. So give up once and for all and relinquish your command. Stop dragging the few left of your kind into an eternal war, and allow them to choose their own destiny.
After Vegeta's words, there was only silence. Nolan understood all too well the weight of what Vegeta had said, for it was something he had struggled with ever since he turned his back on the Empire. However, Thragg did not agree with abandoning his purpose, as it was what he had fought so hard for alongside the previous Emperor. But above all, he could not tolerate anyone else telling him how to lead his people.
You dare lecture me on how to rule? Do you think you have the right to do so? You don't even understand the purpose of my race. I kept them alive. I carried this race when everyone was weak. I gave them a purpose. I am the representative of Viltrum. No, you're just a chain holding them back.
Upon hearing that last comment, Thragg unleashed a loud roar of sheer anger, losing whatever composure he had left at feeling cornered. And an instant later, he shot toward Vegeta at breakneck speed, extending his arm with an open hand and stiff fingers like a living spear, seeking to pierce the Saiyan's chest once and for all. But at the last second, Vegeta raised a hand and caught Thragg's wrist with absolute ease, stopping the Emperor's full-force charge as if it were nothing. Thragg's entire body jerked from the abrupt halt, his eyes filling with total disbelief at seeing that his attack had been completely useless.
What?
Vegeta lightly squeezed Thragg's wrist, making him writhe in pain as he looked directly at him, understanding that there was no redemption for him.
Then you leave me no choice.
Before Thragg could react, a blow landed squarely on his abdomen, a punch so clean and brutal that the Viltrumite's body doubled over completely as he coughed up blood. But it didn't end there, as a second later he was met with a second blow to the face, a third to the ribs, a fourth to the chin, and a fifth to the chest, unleashing a barrage of strikes that Thragg was unable to dodge. Invincible and the others were left wide-eyed, watching as the Viltrumite Emperor was pulverized, making it crystal clear that his strength was nothing compared to the Saiyans.
Thragg is being destroyed. Never thought I'd see something like this. I can't even count how many punches that is. He's too fast.
Whatever the case, this'll be over soon. Thragg continued to take multiple blows from Vegeta, being tossed around from side to side in space while his body became covered in internal fractures and blood, rendering him completely unable to counterattack.
This can't be. How is it possible for a race more powerful than ours to exist? This is why we kept other species in check, to prevent this.
After dealing with brutal beating to the Regent, Vegeta decided he had played with him enough. It was time to end the conflict.
It ends here.
Vegeta vanished from the Emperor's sight and reappeared instantly in front of him, thrusting both hands forward and charging a blue sphere of energy between his palms with a blinding glare. Thragg was paralyzed by the imminent attack, not only due to his wounds and broken bones, but because he was in awe of the power before him. He had never imagined they could create energy from their hands. A second later, Vegeta fired the blast in a single line, landing a direct hit on Thragg and sending him hurtling at absurd speeds into the immensity of space, tearing through debris fields and leaving a luminous trail behind as he screamed in agony and helplessness. At the same time, the Viltrumites Goku had incapacitated began to regain consciousness, only to watch in shock and disbelief as their leader was completely humiliated by Vegeta's overwhelming power. And after a few seconds, the energy blast carrying Thragg finally slammed violently into a massive meteor, unleashing a colossal explosion that lit up the vacuum of space. The meteor shattered into thousands of burning fragments as the energy consumed everything around it. When the light faded, there was no trace left of Thragg. The Viltrumite Regent had ceased to exist. The Viltrumite soldiers stared at the scene, motionless, unable to process that the invincible figure of their leader, the very one who had defined their lives, had vanished in a single instant. Omni-Man could not take his eyes off the spot where the explosion occurred.
I can't believe it. Thragg is really dead.
It's all over.
Alan rubbed a hand over his head in absolute disbelief.
I came expecting an intergalactic war, and these two ended it in an afternoon. I'm glad they're on our side.
Goku and Vegeta let their auras slowly dissipate, returning to their base forms as they turned their gaze toward the remaining Viltrumites.
You no longer have an Emperor. You no longer have chains. If you choose the path of conquest again, we will destroy you ourselves.
Now it's up for you to choose.
No Viltrumite answered their words, not out of defiance, but because for the first time in generations, they didn't know what to do. Nevertheless, they acknowledged Goku and Vegeta's overwhelming strength after defeating their leader, and so they bowed before them. Invincible and his father remained bewildered by the magnitude of what Goku and Vegeta had achieved, but amidst their shock, they also felt a profound relief, knowing that everything was finally over.
Maybe the Viltrumite people have a chance now, don't you think, Mark?
Yeah, it seems so. Goku watched in silence as each of the Viltrumites bowed their heads before him and Vegeta. Warriors who just minutes ago were ready to launch into a total war were now motionless and confused, lacking the weight of an absolute figure guiding every decision. The sensation of having the Empire at his feet felt uncomfortable to Goku, who scratched his cheek while tilting his head slightly, not quite knowing how to react to such a display of admiration.
Hey, I really wasn't expecting this. Why are they looking at us like that?
Obviously, because you just defeated the being who dominated their lives for generations. To them, you aren't just strong, you're proof that someone more powerful than Thragg exists.
Even so, it still surprises me that the Viltrumites accepted such a sudden change. They always seemed so sure of everything they did.
I think Goku and Vegeta's display of power was more than enough to make it clear that they don't stand a chance, especially after having defeated the Emperor.
While they continued chatting, Vegeta showed no surprise at the Viltrumites' reaction toward him. He simply stood watching them as an old memory surfaced of several rows of Saiyans lined up and showing respect to him, the prince of his race.
The truth is, this isn't all that strange to me.
You mean from your time on the Saiyan planet?
That's right. This is how I was received on planet Vegeta. Entire ranks awaiting orders and warriors convinced that following the strongest was only natural. An entire race believing that was the only way to exist. You guys really were quite similar. I'm glad you didn't end up like the Viltrumites. Yes, we are more alike than I'd like to admit, but I would never go back to living that way.
Well, but admiring us isn't going to solve anything for them.
You're right. Defeating Thragg merely opened a door. Now someone must guide them before the void makes them repeat the same mistakes.
After saying that, both directed their gaze toward Nolan, Mark, and Alan, while behind them the Viltrumites waited in silence, attentive to every word.
Are you perhaps thinking of...
Yes, and I think the best person for this is Mark.
Goku said this while pointing directly at Invincible with utter casualty, leaving him surprised by his words. Me? Guide them?
Of course. You're half human, half Viltrumite. You know both sides, and you understand what happens when power is misused, as well as the value of protecting others. If anyone can show them another path, it's you.
Invincible stood frozen for a moment, clearly impacted by the image Goku had of him. He wasn't used to being seen as the solution rather than a problem.
Don't worry. You won't be alone. Your father has more experience than anyone here. He knows the Empire's structure, its customs, its history, its mistakes. Together, you are the best option.
Omni-Man lowered his gaze for just a moment after hearing that, as if those words had struck something deep within him.
After everything I've done, do you really think I can lead something different? I'm not going to lie to you. You may never be forgiven for your actions on Earth, but you can still help the rest, and sometimes that's the only thing left to do. That way you can live knowing you did something about it.
Silence enveloped Nolan for several seconds as memories flooded in, of an Earth destroyed by his own hands, of lies, of death, of blind pride, of everything it had taken him so long to understand. He knew perfectly well that some wounds never close, and certain actions can never be erased, but he also understood that standing idly by would serve no purpose anymore.
You're right. What I did is unforgivable.
I'll never ask for forgiveness, but if I can still prevent others from repeating my mistakes, then I will act.
Invincible looked at his father with an intense mixture of emotions: relief, pride, old pain, new hope. Then, we'll do it together.
Now this is news the coalition of planets will love. The galaxy just got a whole lot safer thanks to your help. I just hope they don't get used to relying on us.
Don't be so hard on them, Vegeta. I'm sure they'll grow stronger. Strong enough to be invincible. The remaining Viltrumites continued watching them closely, waiting to receive new orders from one of them, as they didn't know what their purpose was now that Thragg had fallen. It was then that Invincible took a deep breath and stepped in front of them, ready to chart a new course for the Viltrumites.
Listen to me, all of you. Thragg has fallen, and with him fell the old Empire. But that doesn't mean you have to disappear. Your destiny is not tied to the ruins of that past, nor are you condemned to continue destroying civilizations to survive. That is why my first order is for you to accompany me to Earth.
Several faces changed immediately, showing clear bewilderment and even some instinctive resistance. Some exchanged uncertain glances, while others remained motionless.
Go to the world we were supposed to conquer.
Yes, you'll come with me and see how humanity lives. You'll see what it means to protect others instead of subjugating them. The Viltrumites seemed confused by Invincible's decision, since after so many years of conquest, it was difficult for them to imagine living alongside another species.
I know it might be complicated for you to accept this change. I thought the same way for years, but I was wrong. Strength without purpose only destroys, and you've all seen where that led us, to our extinction. Besides, if you cooperate, the coalition will be much less hostile towards you. Believe me, that is very much in your best interest.
No one is asking you to become weak, just to learn another way to make use of your powers.
If you reject this opportunity, you will end up extinct because of your own foolishness. But if you can take it, perhaps you will have a future.
The words of Invincible and the others resonated with each and every Viltrumite, prompting them to slowly nod at his instructions despite their doubts, accepting a step forward into the unknown rather than a return to a certain extinction. Invincible observed this and felt, for the first time, that he could truly change something. Good. Then let's return to Earth. Sounds good. Besides, I'm hungry. The food on the ship wasn't good at all.
After toppling an empire, that's the first thing on your mind? I like this guy.
Now that everything had been made clear, Goku and Vegeta embarked on the journey back to Earth, along with Invincible and the rest of the Viltrumites. After a couple of days, they all reached Earth's atmosphere, but upon detecting so many presences approaching the planet, global emergency protocols were activated in a matter of minutes, sending direct alerts to the GDA base. Cecil reacted immediately and ordered all surveillance cameras to be brought up to identify the threat, realizing there was a massive formation of Viltrumites advancing directly toward Earth. Tension in the room spiked instantly. Agents ran back and forth while technicians awaited instructions, until suddenly a transmission broke through to the control room, broadcasting Invincible's voice.
Cecil, don't attack! Listen to me first.
Mark, I have a full formation of Viltrumites entering the planet. You have a few seconds to convince me not to hit them with everything I've got. Invincible took a deep breath, well aware that what he was about to say would sound impossible to believe, but he had to speak before Cecil acted on his own.
The Viltrumite Emperor is dead. Goku and Vegeta took care of defeating him. Now that the old Empire's fallen, the remaining Viltrumites have agreed to halt their conquest. That is why they're coming with us.
Cecil remained silent and narrowed his eyes as if he had just heard pure madness. He leaned both hands on the console, processing every word with obvious difficulty.
Mark, I've heard a lot of impossible things during my time at the GDA, but this is competing for first place. Are you truly certain that the Viltrumites will follow your orders?
After Cecil asked that question, Goku also prepared to speak to him over the transmission. Don't worry, after everything that happened in space, they got the message loud and clear. And even if something were to happen, we'll just take care of it again.
You have our word, Cecil. Everything is secure.
Cecil closed his eyes for a moment to consider what he had just heard from them, ultimately deciding to trust their words.
Very well. I'm authorizing your landing.
But listen to me, all of you. If this turns out to be a trap, I will use everything in my power to stop them. Understood, Cecil. Invincible and the Viltrumites abandoned their ship, descending at high speeds alongside Goku and the others toward the GDA base, which was surrounded by numerous military personnel and multiple hidden defensive systems. Once they managed to land at the base, the Viltrumites noticed how the people in their area looked at them with fear and uncertainty, something to be expected given their reputation. Omni-Man took a few steps forward next to Mark, while Goku and Vegeta walked behind them, until Cecil finally appeared in front of everyone, escorted by armed agents as his gaze swept over them one by one until it stopped on Nolan. Well, look who's back. Following that comment, the atmosphere grew tense instantly. Even several Viltrumites sensed the latent hostility between the two, but nevertheless, Omni-Man kept his gaze fixed on him. Hello, Cecil. I'd say the same to you, but I'm not going to feign cordiality with you, Nolan. You destroyed cities and killed innocent people. You lied for years, and you nearly turned this planet into a graveyard. I had to watch as several heroes died because of you. You left millions terrified by your actions, including your own family. Omni-Man did not reply right away, knowing that everything he was being accused of was true. He felt guilty for what he had done in the past, but he stood his ground to answer Cecil. I know, and I don't expect to be forgiven for my actions. I cannot fix everything I destroyed. That will be a burden I must carry for the rest of my existence. But I am here because I can't just stand idly by either. That's the only thing we agree on. You will not have the Earth's forgiveness. But if the Viltrumites are truly going to change, then everything rests on you now, Nolan. You know them, and you understand how they think. You helped turn them into monsters, so now you're going to help undo that. Every step they take will be supervised by me, and if you fail even once, I won't hesitate to... Don't worry, Cecil. I'll take charge of this as well. I won't let this fall solely on his shoulders. One way or another, they are my people too, and if there's a chance for them to change, we'll take it. Cecil looked at Mark for a few seconds, recognizing the absolute conviction in his words. Then it'll be your responsibility alongside your father's. That gives me a little more reassurance. Whatever this is, it's better than an endless war and cosmic genocide. The leader of the Coalition of Planets will be very pleased with this. So, are you leaving now? That's right. I'm sorry I can't stay to celebrate, but I need to report this as soon as possible. Well, I'm sure we'll see each other another time anyway, so take care of yourself. Of course, will do. After finishing that conversation, Alan decided to depart and inform the Coalition about everything that had happened, since it was a vastly important achievement for them. On the other hand, the Viltrumites were subjected to GDA monitoring for as long as they remained on Earth, to maintain control over all their actions, just in case they tried anything. Now the destiny of the Viltrumite race rested in the hands of Nolan and his son, and it had all been made possible thanks to the help of Goku and Vegeta, who had granted them a chance to save themselves from extinction.